Chapter 430. 5,700 gold coins and 350,000 gold coins. TSK, TSK. Hannes looked at the two items in Su Yi's hands and sighed in admiration. I say, Su Yi, isn't the difference a bit too big? If I were Felito, I would also think that you were just messing around. I wanted this Archmage Thorn's notebook, so the lower the price the better. If I didn't pretend to be poor, how could I have gotten it for 5,700 gold coins? According to my estimate, it should be at least 100,000 gold coins. Sui said, At least 100,000 gold coins? Hannes was puzzled as he snatched Archmage Thorn's notebook from Su Yi's hands and flipped through it. He found that it was just like other magicians' notes, recording some research questions. There wasn't anything special about it, so he couldn't help but ask, What's so special about this thing? You're actually willing to spend so much money? If even you can see what's so special about it, then how could I have gotten it so easily? He smiled as he took the notebook back and carefully put it away. I can only tell you that with this, I can develop something that can bring millions or even tens of millions of gold coins to our new flyer. Hey, aren't you bragging a bit too much? Hannes was a bit unconvinced. If you say that you can use this thing to make hundreds of thousands of gold coins for your new flyer, then I'll believe you. Millions or even tens of millions of gold coins. What kind of joke is this? He shrugged. It's fine if you don't believe me. Hannes coldly snorted and pointed at the necklace in the box in Su Yi's hands. Then what about this necklace? It costs you 350,000 gold coins? You've never been so extravagant before, right? He looked at the box in his hands and sighed. There's nothing I can do about it. Things like public relations costs have to be paid. In order to curry favor with the Lifer family, 350,000 gold coins wasn't a lot. I had originally thought that the higher the price, the better. That was why I had purposely angered Felito. I hoped that he would raise the final price of the auction a bit more. I didn't expect this guy to be so arrogant and back off just because of a mere 350,000 gold coins. I'm really disappointed. Hannes glared at Su Yi, feeling both annoyed and amused. Do you think everyone can have so many gold coins at their disposal like you? This is because your Frestack Chamber of Commerce's benefits are too good and your profits are too high, so you can casually use a large number like 350,000. If it were any other Chamber of Commerce's president, they wouldn't be as extravagant as you. As for Felito, although his family is rich, he's not the patriarch. How can he be as generous as you? Since you don't have the confidence, why act so arrogant? I misjudged his strength and had high expectations for him. He shook his head and said with a sigh. Hannes rolled his eyes. That's enough. If Felito heard you, he would be angered to death. You revealed a faint smile. All right, let's not talk about him. How is the matter of contacting the Lifer family for me coming along? You're still not assured with me taking care of things? No problem. I've already contacted a certain brat from their family and arranged to meet him tomorrow night. A certain brat? He knit his brows. My goal is to directly talk to their patriarch. What use is there in meeting this person? Because this brat is the son of the Lifer family's patriarch and is his only son. Hannes explained. Let me tell you, although the Lifer family has declined, they are still very proud. If you want to directly see the patriarch, your status isn't enough. Even if great magician Camilla personally came out, they might not be willing to see you. So, take it step by step. 350,000 gold coins isn't enough to open their family's door? Isn't this threshold a bit too high? He looked at the box in his hand and couldn't help giving a bitter laugh. It was a good thing that this necklace was exquisitely made, had a beautiful appearance, and had a mysterious feeling. Adding the fact that it was made by great magician Lifer himself, it was a pretty good gift for steal. Otherwise, the 350,000 gold coins would have been a bit of a loss. Nonsense. They are the descendants of a great magician. Of course the threshold is high. Hannes stared at Su Yi and said, We've already arranged for tomorrow night. Remember to leave some time ahead of time. If you don't show up when I make the appointment, you won't even have this chance. Tomorrow night. It shouldn't be a problem. I'll arrange it. Su Yi nodded in response. Hannes nodded. After thinking about it, he said, All right, since we've decided on this, we'll discuss the matter of your new flyer advertising in the Anvilmar Times. Sue, he was a bit surprised. Didn't I already discuss this with you? What is there to discuss? Could it be that something has changed? This. Hannah's expression was a bit awkward and embarrassed. There isn't a problem on my side. But you also know that this Anvilmar Times isn't decided by me alone. When I reported the matter of your company advertising, there were some people who opposed it. Sue, he knit his brows. Who were they? What did they oppose? It's not convenient for me to tell you who they were, but as for the opposition, it's mainly because they feel that our Anvilmar Times is the largest newspaper in the Lampari Kingdom, so it's a bit unreasonable for us to help a new flyer company advertise. So, what are the conditions? Sue, he rudely cut off Hannah's words. Hannah's expression became even more awkward. After hesitating for a bit, he said, "The opinion of the people above is that advertising is fine. As a newspaper, this is something that should be done. But our Anvilmar Times is the largest newspaper in the kingdom. If you want to advertise, you have to show enough sincerity." "All right, I understand." Sue, he nodded. "Is 100,000 gold coins enough?" Hannes was shocked. 100,000 gold coins? Sue, are you joking? What? Do you think it's too much? Sue, he asked back. No, it's not that I think it's too much. Oh no, that's not right. I do think it's too much. Those people told me to come and talk to you about this, meaning that you only need to take out 10,000 gold coins. But in the end, you opened your mouth and asked for 100,000 gold coins? I say, do you have so much money that you don't know where to spend it? Hannes anxiously said. 10,000 gold coins? Sue, he couldn't help smiling. The people of this world really didn't understand the power of newspapers. Otherwise, they wouldn't have such a small appetite. Hannes was actually right, because Hannes was the chief editor of the Anvilmar Times, and there were many large nobles and even the royal family supporting it. It had already become the largest newspaper in the Lampari Kingdom. It had a distribution point in every city of the kingdom. For a newspaper with such influence and range, 10,000 gold coins was already considered a low price to advertise in. How about this, Hannes? We're old friends, so I won't beat around the bush with you. 100,000 gold coins, but my request is that the Anvilmar Times and the Lampuri Weekly can't publish any negative news about our new flyer. At the same time, for a month, the Anvilmar Times can only publish advertisements from our new flyer and won't accept advertisements from any other companies. At the same time, this advertising agreement will last for a year. After a year, we'll see how it goes. What do you think? Hannes knit his brows to think for a while before revealing a hesitant look. The other conditions are fine, but to have the Anvilmar Times and the Lampuri Weekly not publish any negative news about your new flyers. This, to be honest, it goes against my principles. Sue, you should be clear that the reason why I love this business is because it can reveal things that no one knows and expose evil to the light of day. Although I feel that your new flyer won't do this, I'm afraid that if... Sue, he revealed a smile. Hannes had already been in the newspaper industry for 3 years, but he still had such a pure heart and passion. It really was rare. All right, we'll set a time limit. It'll be a year. In this year, whether it is the Anvilmar Times or the Lampuri Weekly, they won't be allowed to publish any negative news about our new flyer. As for what you want to do after a year, that's up to you. Hannes was silent for a bit before asking with knit brows, Sue, why do you insist on this request? Moreover, what do you mean by setting a time limit of a year? To put it simply, it's because this year is the most crucial period for our new flyer. I hope that you can give me another year of relaxed conditions to spread the new flyer, or more accurately, the magic machine industry to every corner of the Lampari Kingdom, so I don't want any accidents or obstructions. Sue, he replied, I think I understand the general idea. Your company has been investing in factories in other cities in the past few months for this development plan, right? This is just the beginning. Sue nodded. Hannes nodded. My goal is that every city in the kingdom will have a magic machine factory, and every person in the kingdom will be able to find work in these factories. Every place in the kingdom will be as prosperous as Bana City. Hannes took a deep look at Sue before slowly nodding. I believe you can do this. All right, for your goal, I'll go against my principles and agree to your condition. But Sue, you have to remember that the time limit is only a year. Moreover, if your new flyer does anything wrong in this year, I will remember it and expose it all in a year. Sue revealed a faint smile and spread his hands. Please do as you wish. Chapter 431. Establishing a relationship with a lifer family and placing an advertisement in the Anvilmar Times were just two of the more important things that Sue needed to do in Anvilmar City this time. After discussing this with Hannes, Sue went to 3 other places without stopping. He met up with the Walmart Chamber of Commerce's chairman Colmar Runst, great magician Eisenkel, and President Aaron, who he had already arranged to meet. When he dragged his tired body back to Satsuma Count's residence, the sky was already close to turning dark. Manager Ram, who had been waiting for Sue the entire time, saw Sue come in and immediately came forward to greet him. Although Satsuma Count was no longer the city lord of Banta City, this residence was still kept by him. It was used as a temporary office for the people of Banta City who came to Anvilmar City. Sue had chosen to stay here the last few times he came to Anvilmar City, and this time wasn't an exception. Manager Ram was also very polite to Sue because of Satsuma Count's repeated reminders, not daring to neglect him at all. Seeing Manager Ram instruct the servants to prepare a bath, Sue had the idea of buying a residence in Anvilmar City. The new flyer would definitely open more businesses in Anvilmar City in the future, so he would come to Anvilmar City more and more often. It wasn't convenient to keep living here, so it was better to have a place that belonged to him. Although it wasn't easy to buy a residence in Anvilmar City, with his relationship with Hannes and adding in the fact that he was willing to pay, it wasn't hard. But thinking about how he had just spent close to 500,000 gold coins today, Sue couldn't help giving a bitter smile. Of these expenses, 350,000 gold coins was an investment for the lifer family and 100,000 gold coins was an investment for advertising. These were all investments that didn't have any benefits in the short term. But he had only spent 5,700 gold coins to buy Arch Magus Thorn's notes, so it was very likely that he would be able to see its uses after a while. Sue looked over the notes in his hand and confirmed that the contents were the same as the rumors. It recorded some of Arch Magus Thorn's research in his later years, including many records related to his research on magic flying airships. These things were very helpful for Evita's research on magic flying airships. If it wasn't for the fact that other magicians didn't care about this, Sue definitely wouldn't have spent 5,700 gold coins to buy this incomparably precious book. After organizing the contents of the notes in his mind, Sue closed the notes in satisfaction. When he was about to return to his bedroom to put away his things, he suddenly found a figure walking in from behind him. Sue looked carefully and found that this fellow who couldn't even walk steadily was Alex. "Thorn, where did you go? Why did you come back?" Sue looked at Thorn, who was covered in the smell of alcohol, as he walked over, and he couldn't help asking this with a frown. Thorn looked up, and when he saw that it was Sue he was instantly scared. Most of his drunkenness flew out, and he forced himself to stand up as he said with a laugh, I went out to meet a friend and discuss some things, so I came back late." "Chairman, when did you get here?" "Friend? Discuss things?" Sue didn't reply to Thorn's question. His eyes were already covered in alcohol and vomit, but he could still see that the clothes were made of high-quality materials. It was clear that they weren't cheap, as well as the thick gold necklace around his neck and the expensive amethyst agate bracelet on his wrist, as a cold glow appeared in his eyes. Talk. They wanted to buy a batch of our company's magic refrigerators, so they were discussing the price with me. Thorn wiped the sweat from his forehead as he spoke. "Oh, how was the price?" Sue asked. Thorn wiped the sweat from his forehead and hesitantly replied, It's all right. They agreed to a price of 28 gold coins per unit." "Oh, that's not bad." Sue nodded. "Although it's a bit worse than our standard price of 30 gold coins, if they bought enough, it's still all right." Yes. They bought a lot, so I gave him a little discount accordingly." Alex nodded. Thorn kept nodding. "Chairman, didn't you say that I could adjust the price based on the situation?" "That's right, I said it before. This is your authority as the manager, so there's no problem." Sue nodded. After pausing, he asked, "But Thorn, since I met you, I want to ask you something." Chairman, please ask. Before I came to Amblemar City this time, your Uncle Hines and I discussed it and decided to transfer you back to Bannis City. How could that be? I won't go back." Without waiting for Sue E to finish, Thorn quickly waved his hand and shouted, "I don't want to go back to a small place like Bannis City. I'm fine in Amblemar City. Why do you have to send me back?" Sue E silently looked at the excited Thorn, and when he stopped, he continued, "I'm not done yet. Although this is Hines' suggestion, I haven't agreed yet. I came this time to ask for your opinion. After all, you are Hines' nephew, so if anything happens to you, Hines will consider it for you, and he hopes that you can make your own decision. In short, I don't want to go back to Bannis City. I've already been in Amblemar City for 2 years, so I'm already used to living here. If you want me to go back, I definitely won't be used to it," Thorn said in a loud voice. "You're certain?" Sue E revealed a faint smile. "Alex, are you used to the busy work here every day? Or are you used to the luxurious life here?" Thorn was stunned. Seeing the fake smile on Sue Yi's face, his body trembled, and he lowered his head, avoiding Sue Yi's gaze. Sir Chairman, I don't know what you're talking about." "Don't know? It's fine if you don't know." Sue E shook his head as a trace of regret appeared in his eyes. "In short, think about it for the next 2 days. Before I leave Amblemar City, I hope that you can make the right decision." Sue E paused before giving a sigh. He said in a very sincere voice, "Thorn, I'll say it again. Hines is an old friend who has been working with me since I founded the company, and you are his most treasured nephew. Although I'm not that much older than you, I've always treated you as a relative. So no matter what mistakes you've made, Hines and I will give you a chance to redeem yourself." Thorn was silent for a while. Then he raised his head and looked at Sue E. "Sir Chairman, I don't understand what you're saying. If I've done something wrong, please tell me. I can correct it." "Correct it?" Seeing the expression on Thorn's face, Sue E smiled and waved his hand. "Okay, pretend that I didn't say anything. It's late. You should go to sleep." Thorn bowed to Sue E before turning around to leave. Seeing his back disappear into the night, Sue E revealed a bitter smile. "Hines, I hope that you won't blame me for being unkind when the time comes. ####. Unlike the previous 2 years, this year's Sorcerer's Guild certification exam was held as scheduled. At this time, Amblemar City was just like in the past, filled with magicians from all over the world. Compared to the previous years, the number of sorcerers participating in this year's exam had clearly increased. It was to the point that all of Amblemar City could be seen wearing sorcerers' robes. It was as if Amblemar City had become a city of sorcerers. If one paid attention, they would find that among the sorcerers participating in this year's exam, the percentage of high-level sorcerers was much higher than the previous years. In the past, it was very difficult for high-level sorcerers to increase their rank. Therefore, if they weren't certain that they could pass the exam, high-level sorcerers wouldn't come. But this year, there were a lot of high-level sorcerers who had participated in the exam last year that came again. This was a very strange phenomenon. Because only a short year had passed, most of the high-level sorcerers above the 5th rank wouldn't be able to increase their rank in such a short time. Then why did they participate in the exam? You don't even know this? Didn't you read the Amblemar Times? Bannis City's new flyer made a new rule 2 months ago that magicians who want to work for the new flyer must have a Sorcerer's Guild certification from the Sorcerer's Guild within 2 years to prove their magical strength. In a small tavern across from the Sheldon Inn, there was a group of people talking together. The one who said this was a middle-aged fat man in the crowd. Impossible, right? That new flyer dares to be this arrogant? Hearing the middle-aged fat man's words, the surrounding people revealed looks of disbelief. Magicians are such noble people. It's already a great honor for them to be willing to work for the Chamber of Commerce. How dare they ask these noble magicians to prove their strength with a certificate of qualification? Could it be that these old magicians don't feel that this is shaming them? TSK, the middle-aged man sneered. The middle-aged man laughed. In front of a salary of several dozen gold coins a month, noble? Dignity? What is this thing? Can it be eaten? The surrounding people were stunned. Several dozen to 100 gold coins a month? That much? That's right. Doesn't that new flyer have too much money? Any magician can give him a salary of several dozen to 100 gold coins a month. If they hire several hundred magicians, wouldn't they be giving them a salary of several tens of thousands of gold coins a month? Several tens of thousands of gold coins. The middle-aged fat man raised his head, so proud that it was like he was the new flyer's chairman. You're looking down on the new flyer too much. Don't you know? A friend of mine who works with the Frestec Chamber of Commerce told me that their Frestec Chamber of Commerce is paying their employees a wage of over 100,000 gold coins. Everyone fell into an uproar. For normal people like them, 100,000 gold coins was without a doubt an astronomical figure. But now, this new flyer was actually giving over 100,000 gold coins a month to their employees. This really was hard to imagine. What? You don't believe me? The middle-aged fat man pointed at the Sheldon Inn opposite the tavern. Let me tell you, the magicians of a new flyer will also be participating in the Sorcerers Guild's certification exam this time. Do you know where they will be staying after coming? Everyone stared blankly at the magnificent Sheldon Inn across the street. Although they saw it all day long, they never had the chance to enter it. No way. Are they staying at the Sheldon Inn? You guessed right. My friend said. The middle-aged fat man was just about to continue bragging about this friend when he noticed a commotion at the corner of the street. A moment later, a line of more than 10 square-shaped monsters that looked like iron boxes slowly drove over from the corner of the street and stopped in front of the Sheldon Inn. Chapter 432. Akali jumped out of the door of the first medium-sized magic car, and as soon as her feet touched the ground, she gave a long stretch. Great, we're finally here. Really, after sitting in the car for so long, I'm about to die from exhaustion. Claire jumped out after Akali and rolled her eyes at her. Come on, we didn't even sit for 8 hours, all right? What is there to be tired about? Don't forget, when we took the horse carriage here last year, it took us over 2 days. That's right, now that we have a magic car, it's much easier to come here. Bella, who followed behind, also looked at Akali with a look of disdain. I think that you're too used to enjoying yourself and have forgotten all the hardships you've suffered before. Akali pouted her lips in an unconvinced manner. Who said that? I haven't sat in a magic car that many times, all right? Then again, no matter what, it's hard to take sitting in it for 8 hours. If it can be like Sir Chairman said, and we can get here in 2-3 hours, then I won't say it's hard. All right. Sir Chairman also said that it's fine if you can get here in 2-3 hours. As long as you can develop the new magic engine, there's no problem. Claire said, You say like it's not related to you. Akali immediately refuted. Claire, don't forget, your team's magic circulation system is also very important, all right? Claire laughed. Our project is about to be finished, but what about the magic car's central control system that your team is responsible for? Have you finished half of it? Of course. We've already set the standard for the magic array's magic vibration frequency. Now, we just need to... Before Akali could finish, Evita, who got out, glared at her. Only then did she react and quickly close her mouth. Seeing Evita's gaze, Claire and Bella stuck out their tongues and lowered their heads in embarrassment. Don't discuss technology outside. How many times do I have to remind you? Evita reprimanded the three before waving her hand behind her. 3 researchers from the Academy of Magic ran over. Keep an eye on the people in your team. Don't lose them. In the next few days in Anvil Mars City, no matter what happens to your respective teams, I will hold you accountable. Do you understand? The 3 researchers nodded in unison, their expressions stern. All right, let's go in now. Everyone has been on the bus for too long and must be tired. Rest early today and don't go out and wander around. Watching Evita walk towards the door of the Sheldon Inn, Akali behind them suddenly came to Claire and Bella's side, whispering in a mysterious voice, Hey, don't you feel that Evita is becoming more and more dignified? Sometimes, even I don't dare talk back to her. That's right, that's right. I'm not the only one who thinks so. Bella nodded. I've been wanting to say it for a long time. Claire said, Evita really has the aura of a leader. I think she has been the dean for a long time, so she naturally became like this. Akali tapped her chin. If I knew earlier, I would have asked Sir Chairman to let me be the dean. It would be great if I could be as dignified as Evita. Claire and Bella rolled their eyes at Akali. You're the dean? Forget it. You're not suited at all. Akali glared back. You're saying it like you're suited. We never said that. Bella quickly denied it. If you ask me, if I really have to choose, Evita is the most suitable. I have to say, Sir Chairman's eyes are quite good. Claire gave a faint sigh. It's a pity Sir Chairman is so slow when it comes to relationships. Our Academy of Magic has so many resentful women. Seeing Claire's lustful gaze, Akali was angry and embarrassed. She reached out to pinch Claire's waist. Claire gave a soft laugh as she dodged and ran into the Sheldon Hotel. Akali and Bella shouted as they chased after them. Not long after, the Sheldon Inn's main hall was filled with researchers from the Frestec Chamber of Commerce, who came from far away, making it very lively. When Akali chased Claire into the hall, Evita was currently talking to a young man who had a strong figure and a decent appearance. He looked quite handsome. After seeing this person's face, Akali forgot to continue messing around with Claire. She stopped to think for a bit before walking over. Dean, Evita, the arrangements for the next few days are like this. If you and the other researchers are dissatisfied with anything, you can tell me, and I can make changes. Alex had a smile as he said to Evita, Sir Chairman told me to properly receive you and arrange everything for you in Amblemar City, so you don't need to be polite with me. Evita gave a slight nod. Then I'll have to trouble you, Manager Alex. It's nothing. It's my honor to be able to serve you. Alex looked at Akali, who was walking over, and nodded to her. Then he looked at the other researchers in the lobby and continued, Today is your first day here, and there are still 2 days before the Sorcerer's Guild exam. How about I hold a welcoming banquet for you tonight and properly receive you? There's no need to trouble yourself. We're already very... Akali had just opened her mouth when Evita cut her off. All right, then I'll have to trouble Manager Alex. But tonight's banquet doesn't need to be too luxurious. Just do your best. All right, then it's settled. Seeing Evita agree, Alex immediately nodded. If there's nothing else, I'll be leaving first. See you tonight. All right. Watching Alex leave the Sheldon Hotel, Akali had a surprised expression as she asked Evita in a low voice, Are we going to make a move this time? Evita glanced at Akali and replied softly, If we don't deal with it as soon as possible, are we going to make a move when our losses are too great to accept? This is the President's idea, and also for Vice President Hines' sake. Vice President Hines. Akali looked at the door and slowly shook her head. She sighed, Why don't I have such a good uncle? Hashtag, hashtag, hashtag. When Alex walked out of the Sheldon Hotel, Sue-E had just walked into a tavern called Tree Shade Cabin. Hey, Sue-E, over here. Hannah's voice sounded from the corner of the tavern. Sue-E looked in the direction of the voice and saw Hannes and another person sitting together in the corner with their back to the tavern door. Give me a glass of lemon vanilla juice first. Thank you. After speaking to the waiter, Sue-E turned to look at the young man sitting across from Hannes and extended his hand. Hello, I'm Sue-E. This young man looked even younger than Hannes and was probably in his early 20s. However, whether it was his clothes or his expression, he looked very mature. He gave off the feeling that he was as mature as Sue-E, who was already 30 years old. He looked up at Sue-E and then slowly stood up. He extended his hand and lightly shook Sue-Ye's hand before immediately taking it back. Hello, Chairman Sue, I'm Myrna Leifer. Sue-E smiled and motioned to the other person. The two sat down together. Mr. Leifer, since you're calling me Chairman Sue, then Hannes must have already introduced me to you and even explain my purpose for coming here? Sue-E asked. Myrna Leifer nodded. Yes, Hannes didn't hide your situation and intentions from me. Sue-E looked at Hannes, and Hannes shrugged and spread his hands. Sue-E understood and turned to Myrna Leifer. Since it's like this, then it's much simpler. I think I can directly tell you my thoughts. Mr. Leifer, may I ask, is your family willing to sell Great Magus Leifer's research records or any related research results? Myrna Leifer seemed to be surprised by Sue-Ye's straightforward question. He looked at Sue-E in surprise, and after a while, he shook his head with a bitter smile. Even the necklace that grandmother treasured the most was sold. What do you think we can't sell? He couldn't help revealing a smile. It was good that they were willing to sell. He was just afraid they wouldn't sell. Then may I ask, Mr. Leifer, can you represent your family this time? I mean, can I discuss the purchase of those research records with you? He asked again. We can discuss, but I won't make the final decision. Myrna Leifer replied. We nodded. I understand. All right, Mr. Leifer. I know that in great Magus Leifer's later years, he researched magic machines for a period of time and left behind quite a bit of research data. I'm interested in the data he left behind. May I ask if your family has kept this data and is willing to sell it? He shook his head. This valuable information is naturally preserved. But Chairman Su, I'm very curious. Hasn't your Frestech Chamber of Commerce already obtained good results in terms of magic machine research? Why do you still want to obtain great-grandfather's research data? Myrna Leifer asked. There's a saying in my hometown. It's called 3 people walk together. There must be someone among them that can be my teacher. It means that no matter what, you can find something worth learning from others. Although our new flyer has some results in magic machines, Great Magus Leifer is still a legendary Great Magus. I think that as long as he has some research on magic machines, he will have his own unique insights that we can learn from. Sui replied, I appreciate your words. Myrna Leifer said with a nod. For a new flyer to have a chairman like you, it's no wonder they can develop so quickly. All right, I'll represent my father to temporarily agree to sell these research data to your new flyer. Suyi's mind shook. Then I'll ask Mr. Leifer to name a price. How many gold coins? I think that as long as it's not too excessive, I'll accept it without any reservations. Myrna Leifer revealed his first smile since meeting, and it actually contained a bit of slyness. Chairman Su, I never said that the sale of these research data had to be paid in gold coins, right? Chapter 433. He's a smart person. Sui looked at Myrna Leifer. He let out an emotional sigh as he watched Myrna Leifer walk away. Hannes rolled his eyes at him. Nonsense. Myrna Leifer is the most talented magician in the Leifer family after Great Magus Leifer. He is said to be the one most likely to become the next Great Magus. How could he not be smart? You know that's not what I meant. Sui revealed a faint smile. He didn't directly ask for gold coins and instead chose to cooperate with our company in the long term. It has to be said that this is a very wise choice. Only this way will they be able to obtain a stable income in the long term. The final profit will be much better than just a few gold coins. Hannes rolled his eyes again. Hey, Chairman Su, can I take this as you boasting? You're so sure that cooperating with New Flyer in the long term will be more profitable? What? You don't believe me? Sui asked back. Hannes was stunned and was speechless. No matter how much Hannes wanted to argue with Sui, he couldn't deny that New Flyer's prospects were very broad. Choosing to cooperate with New Flyer in the long term would give him more benefits. Seeing that Hannes was speechless, Sui looked at Myrna Leifer. He narrowed his eyes in the direction Myrna Leifer left in and said, You just said this Myrna Leifer? The genius magician that the Leifer family has high hopes for and has a chance of becoming the next Great Magus? Hannes still looked at Sui. Aren't you also a magician? Can't you see that his magic power is already very strong? It has to be known that he is younger than me by 2 years and is already a 6th grade magician. He's already a 6th grade magician at this age. He is indeed a super genius. Sui nodded. No one of the Leifer family needs money so much. After all, if they want to increase their magic power, they will need large amounts of magic materials to do all kinds of magic experiments. Hannes gave a shrug. Any powerful magician is built with gold coins. Even your great magician Camilla is not an exception. Look, since he has you as his backing and doesn't need to worry about money, great magician Camilla has increased a level in just 3 short years. He is a great magician. Sui laughed. If great magician Camilla heard you say this, do you believe that he wouldn't kick you? Gold coins are important, but a magician's talent is more. If you say this, aren't you denying his magic talent? Hey, don't spread rumors. I didn't mean that. Hannes hurriedly waved his hand. Haley's is Magi's is Magi. This, I really don't dare deny it. Suitly nodded. Didn't you see what I said just now? The reason why the Lifer family needs money so badly is definitely to promote Myrna, the Leffy family's magic power. For this, they're even willing to sell great magician Leffy's precious relics. Hannah said in an emotional voice, when great magician Leffy was still alive, the Leffy family was very famous in signs. How could they lack money? They won't lack money now. Sue, he had a confident smile on his face. With the precious research materials left behind by great Magus Lifer, their family will definitely be able to obtain enough benefits from our Frestack Chamber of Commerce in the future. So this Myrna? So this great magician Leffy won't lack money for his magic research. You really like to show off today. Hannes rolled his eyes. His heart suddenly skipped a beat as he looked at Sue E and asked, "That's right, Sue E, speaking of this. You came to Amblemar City this time for another important matter. Is it to participate in the Sorcerer's Guild's certification exam?" "That's right, what about it? I'm just a bit curious. Every time I see Great Magician Camilla, he always says that you have a lot of talent for magic. If you focus on studying magic, it won't be a problem for you to become a great magician in the future. Then I want to ask, since you decided to participate in the exam this year, you must have felt that your rank has increased, right?" "That's right. And then? Let me think. You passed the 7th rank exam 2 years ago, right? Looking at it this year, you should be able to pass the 8th rank exam. What I'm curious about is, can you pass the 9th rank exam?" Sue gave a faint smile. "You'll know when I participate in the exam in 2 days. Hashtag after midnight." It was already early in the morning. Even though Anvilmar City was the largest city in the Lampari Kingdom, it was still silent and dark. Alex quickly walked through the shadows of the streets in the southern part of the city. After walking through 2 intersections, he suddenly turned left into a small alley. After walking for about 200 meters in this empty and dark alley, he reached out his hand and knocked a few times on a shabby wooden door at the side of the alley. After 2 short knocks and 1 long knocks, the wooden door opened with a soft squeak, revealing a normal-looking middle-aged man's face. Alex looked at him and slightly knit his brows before walking in. After the wooden door closed, there was a small room that could be seen everywhere in the southern part of the city. The 2 of them entered a small room in the small room. After the middle-aged man closed the door and windows, he reached out his hand to Alex. Alex glanced at the hand in front of his chest, but he didn't take out the item hidden in his chest like he usually did. Instead, he frowned and hesitated for a moment before saying, "I hope you can raise the price for this item." The middle-aged man was a bit surprised, but then he revealed a smile. "What? Alex, what happened that made you have the guts to talk to me about conditions?" Alex coldly snorted, "I saw the president yesterday." Sue E. "So what? So what?" Alex suddenly became angry. He poked the middle-aged man's chest with his finger and said in a low voice, "Do you know that the president warned me?" "Warned you?" Hearing this, the middle-aged man didn't have time to care about Alex's rude behavior. He frowned and asked, "What did he say? Could it be that he noticed?" Alex was stunned. After a while, he blankly shook his head. "I don't know. The president didn't say it clearly, but I can see that he definitely knows something. That's why he warned me. In short, this is the last transaction between us. Give me the money, and we have nothing to do with each other in the future. I've never seen you, and you've never seen me. Do you understand?" The middle-aged man silently looked at Alex for a while. Then he suddenly let out a cold laugh. "Alex, it seems like you don't understand your position." "What?" Alex asked in a low voice. "Do you think this kind of thing is something that you can do as you please? Do you think if I tell everyone what you've done and let your president know that you've sold out a lot of new flyers' research secrets, what do you think he'll do to you?" Alex's face became very ugly. After a moment of silence, he forced out a smile and shook his head. "The president won't do anything to me. Yesterday, when he warned me, he said that no matter what I did wrong, he would give me a chance because of my uncle. So your threat has no meaning to me." The middle-aged man chuckled. "You really are naive. Alex, do you know what you've done?" Didn't I just sell you some things that I got from those researchers? What's so important about that? I don't believe that the president will do anything to me because of such a small thing. No matter what, my uncle was his earliest partner. He will definitely have some misgivings. Alex forced out a smile. The middle-aged man narrowed his eyes and looked at Alex for a while before reaching out his hand with a smile. All right, let me see what you got this time. If it's suitable, I can raise the price a bit. I guarantee that you'll be satisfied. Alex hesitated for a bit before nodding. He took out a thin notebook from his chest and handed it over. The middle-aged man opened the notebook and looked at it before gently shaking his head. Alex, your handwriting is still so ugly. Alex said with shame and anger. Does it matter? Also, I'm afraid that I'll forget it. I wrote it down when the alcohol hasn't completely passed. It would be strange if my handwriting looked good. All right, it's fine as long as the content isn't wrong. The middle-aged man smiled as he continued to flip through the notebook. After reading 2 pages, his face revealed a very shocked expression. Alex, the goods this time seem to be quite good. Alex revealed a smug expression. Of course. This time, I invited the Academy of Magic's Dina Vita, as well as several research team leaders. They're all the core researchers of the Academy of Magic, so of course they know more. How about it? Since you think the goods this time are good, then the price. The price is not a problem. The middle-aged man flipped through the notebook again. After thinking for a bit, he took out a gold note and gave it to Alex. Alex took a look at it and was immediately taken aback. 3,000 gold coins? That much? You can return it to me if you think it's too much. The middle-aged man said with a smile. Alex quickly stuffed the gold note into his chest and then waved his hand at the middle-aged man. Goodbye. Seeing that Alex was about to leave the room, the middle-aged man suddenly let out a sigh. If I were you, I wouldn't choose to leave now. Alex suddenly stopped and turned around to ask with a frown. What do you mean? Are you threatening me? No, I just feel pity for you. The middle-aged man said. Pity me for what? Originally, I just received a new mission that required you to obtain some research materials from your new flyer. The other side offered a very high price, and I thought that just the commission alone would be enough for me, not to mention you. But now you actually don't want to continue. It really is a pity. A struggling expression appeared on Alex's face. After a while, he clenched his teeth and asked in a soft voice, What price did the other side offer? The middle-aged man stretched out a finger. The smile on his face was very strange under the light in the room. 10,000 gold coins. 10,000 gold coins? Alex's breathing suddenly became very rapid. Chapter 434. This year's certification exam for the Lampari Kingdom Sorcerers Guild was very likely to be the largest exam in history. According to the statistics of the Sorcerers Guild, there were over 8,000 magicians participating in the exam this year. It had to be known that there were only a little over 10,000 magicians in the Lampari Kingdom. In other words, the number of magicians participating in the exam this time was close to 80% of the total magicians in the Lampari Kingdom. Even though there were close to 5,000 magicians participating in the exam last year, and there were signs of this, there were over 8,000 magicians participating this year. This instantly made the Lampari Kingdom's Sorcerers Guild very busy. If it wasn't for President Aaron's plan, the Sorcerers Guild would have fallen into chaos this time. But even if they were prepared, because of the large increase in the number of people participating, the originally scheduled 1-week exam was extended to half a month. Even though the time had more than doubled, the process of participating in the assessment every day was still extremely urgent. The staff of the Magic Guild had to be in a state of work all day long, with almost no time to rest. However, no one had any complaints about this because, unlike previous years, President Aaron announced that during the qualification examination this year, due to the increase in workload, every staff member would be given a special allowance. The temporary standard was 2 gold coins per person per day. 2 gold coins a day meant that in half a month, they would receive an extra 30 gold coins. This was a considerable amount of income for all the staff of the Magic Guild. So naturally, their enthusiasm for work was particularly high. No matter how busy they were during this period of time, no one complained. Instead, They worked very hard and seriously, making the qualification certification examination go very smoothly, and there were very few mistakes. I say, President Aaron, even the normal staff members receive a special allowance. Shouldn't we great magicians also receive a bit of allowance? Great magician Eisenkel teased President Aaron, sitting in the main seat. President Aaron laughed. Eisenkel, stop joking. With your wealth, do you still need to ask me for a few dozen gold coins? Then again, our Sorcerers Guild finally has a bit of surplus to give to our staff members. As a great magician, shouldn't you be competing with them for this? The three great magicians sitting on the side, including great magician Camilla, all began to laugh. This was a meeting the 5 great magicians were holding for the Sorcerers Guild's certification exam. They were mainly discussing the high-level magician certification exam at the end. Great magician Eisenkel couldn't help making a joke when he heard President Aaron explain how to solve the pressure of the increase in workload. Speaking of this, why does our Sorcerers Guild still have a bit of surplus this year? Didn't we have to rely on the union's special allowance before? Great magician Taluchi asked in a curious voice. Speaking of this, it's mainly because of Sue E. President Aaron looked at the habitually silent great magician Camilla and said with a smile, if it wasn't for the magic patents he proposed, how could our guild have a surplus of money? Oh, that means there are many magicians applying for magic patents? Great magician Torres asked with a curious look. That's right. President Aaron nodded. According to last month's statistics, there are over 13,000 magic patents registered with the guild, and the patent protection fee is over 200,000 gold coins. That much. Great magician Taluchi and great magician Torres had looks of surprise. Great magician Eisenkel knit his brows. Isn't this a bit too little? The total protection fee for more than 13,000 patents is only over 200,000 gold coins. On average, the protection fee for each patent is less than 2 gold coins, right? President Aaron said with a laugh. Because there are some magicians who apply for low patent protection fees, they don't even pay a single gold coin. Then what are they applying for? Great magician Taluchi said in a surprised voice, such a low patent protection fee, it doesn't have any use at all. You don't understand. Great magician Torres laughed. Great magician Torres said with a smile, Taluchi, applying for patents for the magic you researched is a very popular thing right now. Even I've applied for several. Of course, I didn't pay much. It added up to less than 100 gold coins. Why? Great magician Taluchi was a bit confused. If there's no need, why would you apply? To put it bluntly, it's for face. Great magician Torres said. Think about it. If there are 2 magicians, and one has several special magic patents while the other doesn't have a single one, wouldn't you think that the level of a magician without a patent is lower? Great magician Taluchi thought for a bit before nodding. That seems to be the case. Great magician Torres said with a smile. So that's why many magicians have begun to treat the number of patents they can apply for as an important symbol. Taluchi, I advise you to quickly apply for a few as well. Otherwise, when we all have several dozen patents and you don't have a single one, wouldn't you feel that something is wrong? Great magician Taluchi gave a bitter laugh. That's right. It seems like I need to properly consider it. After saying this, he turned to look at great magician Eisenkel and great magician Camilla. What about you guys? Even Torres has applied for several patents. Shouldn't the 2 of you have more? Great magician Eisenkel revealed a faint smile. I don't have much. I've only applied for 32 patents. However, I've paid 3,000 gold coins in patent protection fees for these 32 patents, which is a bit more than Torres. How can I compare to you in terms of money? Torres rolled his eyes. Great magician Eisenkel broke out in laughter as he pointed at great magician Camilla and said, if we're talking about money, even I can't compare to Camilla. I'm sure that Camilla has applied for the most magic patents out of all of us, and she's also paid the most patent protection fees. Including President Aaron, the other 4 great magicians all looked at great magician Camilla. Great magician Camilla slowly shook his head. My current identity is a top-grade researcher of the Magic Research Institute of New Flying Chamber of Commerce. Even if I applied for a patent, it would be under the name of the new flyer and not my own name. The patent protection fees would naturally be paid by the new flyer. It isn't related to me. The new flyer is this rich. They must have paid a lot of patent protection fees, right? Torres kept asking. I'm not clear on this because these things were all done by Sue E. I didn't care. Great magician, Camilla replied. Everyone looked at President Aaron again. President Aaron gave a soft cough and looked at great magician Camilla before saying with a nod, "That's right. All the patents that the magicians of the new flyer have applied for are all in the name of the new flyer. So, I don't know which patent was developed by Camilla. However, I do know that out of the 563 patents that the new flyer has applied for, the one with the highest patent protection fee was 10,000 gold coins." 10,000 gold coins? Even great magician Eisenkel had wide eyes with a look of disbelief. Just for a single magic patent? Yes. President Aaron nodded. Great magician Eisenkel's heart skipped a beat as he asked, then, "President, what is this magic patent?" President Aaron shook his head. "I can't tell you the details, but I can tell you that if the new flyer is willing to transfer this patent, I am willing to spend 10,000 gold coins or even several tens of thousands of gold coins to buy it." Great magician Torres and great magician Talucci looked at each other in surprise. Great magician Talucci's heart skipped a beat, and he couldn't help asking President Aaron, "President Aaron, I've heard that the magic machine factory you opened is quite profitable." President Aaron's expression changed slightly as he waved his hand and said, "That was opened by that brat Inc. It's not related to me. But the profits are indeed not bad." Seeing the proud smile on President Aaron's face, great magician Talucci hesitated a bit before turning to great magician Camilla to ask that, "Camilla, do you think I can also open a magic machine factory?" Hearing great magician Talucci's question, the other four were stunned. If they were talking about being conservative, even great magician Camilla couldn't compare to great magician Talucci. When discussing the magic patents, the Frestec Chamber of Commerce, and the new magic machines, great magician Talucci had always been against it. Now, he actually took the initiative to open a magic machine factory. This really made the other four great magicians feel that it was a bit strange. Wasn't this world changing too quickly? Even the most stubborn and conservative Talucci had changed. Great magician Camilla was stunned for a bit before asking back in a confused voice, "Talucci, what's wrong with you all of a sudden? Why do you want to open a magic machine factory? Weren't you the one who couldn't accept this before?" Great magician Talucci gave a deep sigh. "It's hard to explain. In short, I need money right now. So can you tell me if it's possible?" I'm not certain." Great magician Camilla shook his head. "Opening a magic machine factory isn't an easy matter. I feel that. With your personality, you won't be able to do it." Chapter 435. Is that so? Great magician Talucci's expression dimmed. Seeing great magician Talucci's appearance, the other four great magicians looked at each other and could see the doubt in each other's eyes. With great magician Talucci's status, what kind of problem would cause him to say it in this kind of situation? Great magician Camilla slightly knit his brows and said, "Talucci, if you really need money, I think I can help you. If you really can't, I'll discuss it with Sue E. and have him lend it to you." "No, this can only solve it for now. It can't solve the problem completely. Then again, it would be very hard for me to pay back this money." Great magician Talucci shook his head and said with a bitter smile, "I'm not as quick-witted as you guys. I'm not good at making money. Perhaps you're right. Even if I open a magic machine factory, it will only go bankrupt in the end." Great magician Torres, great magician Eisenkel, and President Aaron looked at each other in silence. Although there were only 5 great magicians in the Lampari Kingdom, that didn't mean that the 5 great magicians had a good relationship with each other. On the contrary, other than great magician Camilla being low-key and having a normal relationship with the other 4 great magicians, the other great magicians didn't have a good relationship with each other. Although great magician Talucci had met a large problem, they weren't willing to rashly reach out. Great magician Camilla knit his brows in thought before saying to great magician Talucci, "If you need a stable income for a long time, I actually have a very good suggestion. Toluchi, do you want to hear it? Oh, what suggestion? Great Magician Toluchi asked in a spirited voice. Great Magician Camilla pointed at himself. Do you know what my salary is at the Frestec Chamber of Commerce? Great Magician Toluchi was stunned. You want me to work in New Flyer? How is that possible? Sue isn't my granddaughter-in-law. It's not too late to make a conclusion after hearing what I have to say. Great Magician Camilla raised a finger. Let me tell you, my salary in New Flyer is 10,000 gold coins a year. 10,000 gold coins. Not only Great Magician Toluchi, even the richest Great Magician Eisenkel had his eyes wide open in shock. So many? Great Magician Camilla smiled. What do you think now? Great Magician Toluchi was silent for a bit before making a decision. He gave a slight nod. Camilla, can you arrange a meeting between me and Sui? Hashtag. It was a rare, warm, early winter sun. So Lampuri 13th came to the back garden of the royal palace when the sun was in the sky. He laid down in a comfortable chair with a blanket on his lap, basking in the sun while looking at the documents in his hand. Most of the time, Lampuri 13th's expression was calm. As someone who had ascended the throne during a time of turmoil and was praised as a wise king by most people of the Lampari kingdom, Lampuri 13th had been through countless storms on the throne, so normal things couldn't affect his mood at all. But when he saw the documents from Lawrence City, he slightly knit his brows and gave a sigh. Your Majesty, are you feeling unwell? The personal guard on the side quickly asked in a concerned voice. Lampuri 13th turned to look at the personal guard who had grown up with him and had served him for over 40 years. He shook his head, and after thinking for a bit, he asked, Dima, what do you think of that child, Eric? Dima was surprised before lowering his head and replying in a soft voice, I don't dare talk about this. It's fine. This is just a chat between us old friends. You don't need to be so restrained. I just want to hear what an old friend like you who watched him grow up thinks about him. Dima looked up and saw the serious expression on Lampuri 13th's face. After thinking about it, he said in a thoughtful voice, I feel that. Eric is quite ambitious. Ambition? Lampuri 13th gave a cold snort. Lampuri 13th gave a cold snort. Although ambition is good, if he doesn't have a brain, he might as well not have any ambition. His so-called ambition might ruin the good situation of our kingdom right now. Dima was shocked. It can't be that serious, right? How can it not be that serious? Lampuri 13th suddenly flew into a rage. He shook the document in his hand and said in a deep voice, Look at what this fellow is doing. He's actually organizing the Northern Army and wants to attack the Sac Kingdom. Does he want to give away the entire Northern Army? It can't be. Dima revealed a confused look. Didn't the Northern Army fight a beautiful battle at the beginning of the year? They even took back the Muerto Mountains. There shouldn't be a problem attacking the Sac Kingdom, right? How could there be no problem? Do you know how much money the kingdom spent on the Northern Army at the beginning of the year? An entire 500,000 gold coins. That was close to a third of the kingdom's revenue last year. Now that we've taken back the Muerto Mountains with great difficulty, we can stabilize the situation and let the kingdom have a period of peaceful development. But this fellow actually wants to start a war. Does he know that the kingdom's finances can't support a war? If we really start a war with the Sac Kingdom, it will completely ruin our current situation. Lampuri 13th suddenly stopped. Dima, who had been listening to Lampuri 13th vent his anger, looked up in surprise. He was shocked to find that Lampuri 13th's face was completely red and even turning purple. He had a pained expression, like he couldn't speak at all. Dima was shocked. Your Majesty, what's wrong? When he was about to come forward, Lampuri 13th's mouth suddenly moved and there was blood that came out of the corner of his mouth. Seeing the drops of dark red blood dripping from the corner of Lampuri 13th's mouth, Dematin was stunned in fear. After being stunned for a while, his body trembled and he turned to run out. At this time, he should have gone to find the imperial doctor as soon as possible. But before he could take 2 steps, Lampuri 13th called out to him. Dima, clean this place up. Don't let anyone know. Lampuri 13th said in a deep voice. But your Majesty, no matter what, You should let a doctor take a look at your body. Dima immediately objected. This is an order, don't ask too much. Lampuri 13th said with a serious look. This? All right. Dima reluctantly agreed. He looked around and confirmed that this back garden was the king's favorite resting place. It was once strictly forbidden for anyone to get close to this place. Only then did he feel relieved. He turned around and walked to the lounge at the side, preparing to clean up this place. Watching Dima leave, Lampuri 13th wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. He looked at his hand for a while before his lips curled into a bitter smile. Why can't you just give me a few more years? Hashtag, hashtag, hashtag. Hey, Sir Chairman, I passed the 5th grade magician exam. Isn't that amazing? Akali had a proud smile as she waved her little hand at Su Yi from afar. The other magicians who had also taken the exam looked at her. Some magicians gave unconvinced snorts, and some revealed sad looks as they lowered their heads to leave. Only Evita beside Akali tapped Akali's raised arm and snappily said, All right, put your arm down. Why are you so loud? Are you afraid that others won't hear? Akali raised her head high. Humph, I want others to know. I'm already a 5th grade magician. Can't I be proud? Evita shook her head and pointed at Su Yi, who was coming over with a smile. The chairman is taking the 9th grade magician exam. What is there to be proud of in front of him? Hearing this, Su Yi immediately waved his hand. That isn't certain. I'll talk about it after I pass the 8th grade magician exam. That's right. Sir Chairman is several years older than me. The difference between an 8th grade magician and a 5th grade magician isn't that far. Akali immediately said, Forget it. Isn't the difference between an 8th grade magician and a 5th grade magician? Do you have confidence in becoming an 8th grade magician at the chairman's age? Evita asked. Why wouldn't I have confidence? Look, I've been in our company for 2 years, and I've gone from a 4th grade magician to a 5th grade magician. In a few years. That's right, Sir Chairman. Already 30 years old this year, right? Akali suddenly turned her head and asked Su Yi. I'm 30, what about it? Su Yi said. I'm only 24 this year. I'm still 6 years away from 30. Why can't I become an 8th grade magician in 6 years? Akali immediately said, All right, you'll become an 8th grade magician, but not now, so you should restrain yourself a bit. Evita was too lazy to argue with Akali about this. Turning her head to Su Yi, she asked, Chairman, the low-level magician exams have all been completed. For the high-level magician exams, you'll have to lead the team. Yes, there aren't many researchers who have the qualifications to take the high-level magician exam, so it doesn't matter if I lead the team or not. Su Yi nodded. Speaking of this, Evita, Akali has already passed the 5th grade magician exam. You shouldn't have a problem either, right? Hey, Sir Chairman, what do you mean by that? Could it be that I'm not as good as Evita? Akali asked in an unconvinced voice. What do you think? Su Yi smiled as he replied with a question. Akali opened her mouth, but couldn't say anything else. Whether it was her magic talent or hard work, she couldn't compare to Evita, so her magic power had always been weaker than Evita. This was a fact that she couldn't deny after all these years. Evita smiled and said, That's right, I also passed the 5th grade magician exam, but I'm still a bit away from becoming a 6th grade magician, so I won't be able to take the high-level magician exam with you this year. That's fine. Keep working hard and try to enter the same exam next year. Su Yi smiled as he encouraged her. He looked up at the sky and waved his hand to the two of them. Let's go, it's about time. Our new flyer's first magic machine product exchange in Anvilmar City can't be missing the two of you. Chapter 436. The Solaga Art Exhibition Hall was in the west of Anvilmar City and was the largest exhibition hall in Anvilmar City. This place was used to display various works of art, like famous paintings, sculptures, and etc. But today, the items displayed here didn't seem to be related to art at all. Who says it isn't related? Solaga Art Exhibition Hall's manager, Analyzer, waved his arms as he loudly refuted the reporter from the Anvilmar Morning News. Look at these incomparably beautiful household magic machines from New Flyer. Look at how beautiful they are on the outside, how beautiful the lines are, and how profound the structure is. They're all filled with a strong sense of art and design. Do you know that each household magic machine here was made by a master elf artist? You actually dare to question whether it is related to art. But these household magic machines are things that people use in their daily lives. How can they be considered works of art? The young female reporter kept asking, and Lizer waved his hand and gave a soft snort. Who told you that art can't be separated from life? Let me tell you, it's the exact opposite. It is in the daily life of each of us that the greatest art exists. Do you see the two fruit trees outside the window? Every leaf on it, in my opinion, is a unique masterpiece of art. Also, that chair over there, look at the unique pattern on it. There were only a few reporters surrounding manager and Lizer, but the reporters surrounding Sue were 3 rings inside and 3 rings outside, so he didn't have any place to stand. Chairman Sue, your new flyer is holding this magic machine technology exchange meeting. What is the main goal? A reporter from the Anvilmar Morning News asked in a loud voice. Sue nodded to this reporter and replied with a faint smile. The so-called product technology exchange meeting is, of course, to exchange technology. Our new flyer's main product is magic machines. So, the technology being exchanged at this exchange meeting is the technology to produce magic machines. Chairman Sue, since you're talking about exchange, does that mean that your new flyer is planning on using your own magic machine technology to exchange? Another reporter asked in a loud voice. Su Yi's gaze swept across the faces of the surrounding reporters. Seeing that they were all filled with anticipation, he smiled and nodded gently. That's right. Hearing this answer, all the reporters instantly became excited. Although through the advertisements in the Anvilmar Times and the Lampuri Weekly about the new flyer, everyone knew that the new flyer was planning to sell other magic machine-related technology. But when Sui personally admitted it, it made everyone feel like it wasn't real. Why did it feel so unreal? Of course, it was because it was too unbelievable. Although New Flyer was only a chamber of commerce that had been established for a little over 3 years, its speed of development had left everyone flabbergasted. Using the evaluation of the Frestec Chamber of Commerce in the Anvilmar Times, this was simply a miracle. In just 3 years, New Flyer had developed from nothing to a first-class company in Banis City, even reaching into the Principality of Constantine, the Black Rice Wasteland, and the Kingdom of Ruhr. Moreover, at the same time, the various magic machines produced by New Flyer had penetrated into every part of the Lampari Kingdom, even reaching every family. Now, no matter which Lampari Kingdom family you entered, you would find that there was at least one or several household magic machines produced by New Flyer. Moreover, with the lead of New Flyer, Banta City had developed from a small city in the Lampari Kingdom to a large city that played an important role in the kingdom, even gradually becoming the economic center of the kingdom. According to the statistics of the Lampari Kingdom's Human Resources Department this year, there were a shocking 300,000 people who came from other cities to work in Banta City. Now in Banta City, there were all kinds of people from all the cities of the Lampari Kingdom. There were even dwarves, elves, and beastmen workers, so it was simply the most advanced city in the kingdom. Even the citizens of Anvilmar City who had a sense of superiority because they lived in the capital, when they mentioned Banta City, they couldn't help revealing a trace of yearning. The reason for all this change was because of the appearance of New Flyer. The reason why New Flyer could have such a strong influence was naturally because of the various magic machines it produced. Before this, New Flyer had transferred the technology for the magic fan and the magic kettle. Just based on the transfer of these two technologies, there were all kinds of large and small companies that produced magic fans and magic kettles that sprung up in the Lampari Kingdom. Moreover, just by relying on a magic fan and the magic kettle, these two trivial things really supported countless companies. At the same time, they also indirectly supported countless workers working in these companies. Now, New Flyer was actually transferring the technology for other magic machines. The reporters around Sue could imagine that when this news was officially released, many people in the kingdom would go crazy over it. Chairman Sue, May I ask what magic machine technology your new flyer is planning on transferring this time? Or is it that any technology can be transferred? A reporter asked in a loud voice. No, of course not. All the technology can be transferred. He shook his head. He shook his head. Right now, our company is mainly considering transferring the technology for the household magic machines. As for the other technologies of our company, we aren't planning on transferring them for now. Hearing this answer, the reporters were a bit disappointed, but after thinking about it, they became excited again. Chairman Su, you just said that you weren't planning on transferring them for now. Does that mean that you will consider transferring them in the future? He revealed a faint smile. There is nothing impossible in this world. The reporters created a stir again. Su Yi's answer clearly meant that new flyer might transfer other technologies in the future. Everyone understood that the household magic machines weren't that important to the current Frestech Chamber of Commerce. Compared to this, the Frestech Chamber of Commerce's production magic machine department and the other factories that couldn't be divided were more important. Then Chairman Su, this transfer of technology will be the same as the transfer of the magic fan and the magic kettle technology. Not only will you transfer the technology, you will also provide technical guidance? No, this time our company will be more thorough than when we transfer the magic fan and the magic kettle technology. Su Yi's expression suddenly sunk. Actually, after transferring the magic fan and the magic kettle technology last time, I wasn't satisfied with the following developments. So in order to pursue better results this time, when our company transfers the household magic machine technology, we will have even stricter requirements. The surrounding reporters were all stunned. Higher and stricter requirements and rules? Were they? To be specific, I hope that the other companies that buy these technologies will strictly follow the standards set by our new flyer and not act recklessly. Su Yi's words were a bit impolite, so the reporters were a bit surprised. After a bit of silence, a reporter raised his hand to ask, Chairman Su, can I interpret your meaning as that if the other companies want to buy your new flyer's technology, they have to follow the standards set by you when they manufacture the magic machines? That's right. Then what if the other companies want to make breakthroughs based on this technology? Wouldn't this restrict them? I remember that you always encourage the other companies to do more research, and if there were companies that surpassed your new flyer in terms of technology, you would even be happy for them. Could it be that your thoughts have changed? No. Following standards and making breakthroughs aren't contradictory. The so-called standards are to make it easier for people in the same industry to develop together. It saves time and manpower, so it is a very important thing. To give an example, for example, our new flyer Shinfei brand magic fans are currently using 3 different types of screw bolts, which is one of the current standards. If the other companies use a different type of screw bolt, those companies that produce screw bolts can only research them again because they will have to invest extra manpower and resources, which is a waste. So he explained. Then Chairman Su, why can't the other companies set the standards and your new flyer follows them? A reporter asked in an unconvinced voice. As soon as he asked this question, the reporter found that the surrounding reporters were all looking at him like he was an idiot. This idiot. New Flyer was the boss of the magic machine industry. So if the standards weren't set by them, who would set them? Su Yi said with a faint smile. Right now, other than our new flyer, the other companies don't have the ability to produce other magic machines, so only our new flyer is qualified to set this standard. If the other companies don't follow it, I can only say sorry. The reporter who had objected just now gave a gulp and didn't dare say anything else. After asking these basic questions, the reporters began to ask about the details of the technology that new flyer was about to transfer. At this time, Su Yi left and brought Akali and Evita, who had been waiting on the side, onto the stage. The technical problems naturally had to be answered by the technicians. Chapter 437. The new flyer product exchange meeting that was scheduled to be held for 3 days had only ended on the first day, but there were shocking results. After the various newspapers of the Lampari Kingdom obtained the news that New Flyer was selling the household magic machine technology, countless companies from the various cities of the kingdom all came to Ambilmar City to attend this product exchange meeting. After the first day, there were 76 companies that had reached an initial transfer agreement with New Flyer. According to the statistics, these 76 companies had reached a total of 127 contracts with New Flyer for 9 kinds of household magic machines. The total value of the contracts was a shocking 10 million gold coins. And this was just the income from the New Flyer selling the technology. If they included the training and technical guidance that came with selling the technology, New Flyer's 127 contracts had earned a terrifying income of over 13 million gold coins. Moreover, this was just in terms of technology. Since these companies had already bought the technology for household magic machines from the Frestec Chamber of Commerce, in order to smoothly produce them, of course they had to buy the corresponding production magic machines from the Frestec Chamber of Commerce. The production magic machines weren't cheap goods, so if they wanted a complete production line, naturally it wouldn't be cheap. It was impossible to estimate the income from this for now, but the 127 contracts with the 76 companies needed at least 127 production lines, so the lowest income would be over 3 million gold coins. This meant that in just a single day, the Frestec Chamber of Commerce had earned over 15 million gold coins in profit. Of course, this was a large amount that shocked people. Even the calm Evita, after hearing this number from Su Yi's mouth, was so shocked that she couldn't speak for a while. As for the always lively Akali, her mouth was wide open in a daze. Her eyes popped out, and she had a look of disbelief on her face. Sir Chairman, so much gold coins. How should we spend it? After a while, Akali finally squeezed out these words in a daze. Although Su Yi didn't estimate the enthusiasm of the other companies in the Lampari Kingdom, he was already prepared, so he wasn't that shocked by this amount. He shook his head with a smile and said, "You think it's a lot? Of course it's a lot." Evita let out a soft sigh and patted her chest as if she was frightened by something. Evita patted her chest. 15 million gold coins. Chairman, you still don't think it's a lot? That's right. Our company has been established for 3 years, and we haven't earned this much money even with all of it added together. In just a single day, we've earned this much. Sir Chairman, do you think it's too little? It's not that it's too little, but... Su Yi looked at the thick stack of technology transfer contract in his hand and slowly shook his head. To be honest, our company hasn't earned yet, but it's a loss. Loss. Evita and Akali's eyes both. How is that possible? You've only seen today's income, but have you ever thought that if our company kept the technology and used it to maintain our monopoly in the household magic machine market, how many gold coins could we earn with this technology? Su Yi asked back. Evita and Akali looked at each other and fell in a deep thought. After a while, Evita said with a nod, "I understand. Chairman, perhaps we really did suffer a loss. Right now, in terms of household magic machines, our company earns at least 1 million gold coins a year. Moreover, this is the situation where the market hasn't been opened yet. If we sell the household magic machines to every part of the kingdom, or even every country on the continent, I think that we'll be able to earn several million gold coins in just a single year. Although 15 million gold coins is a lot, as long as our company can develop smoothly, we will definitely earn more than this in the future. But what if our company doesn't develop smoothly?" Akali thought about it before refuting. Evita glared at her. "What nonsense are you saying? With the chairman here, how could our company not develop smoothly?" Akali knew that she had said something wrong as soon as she said this. She stuck out her tongue in embarrassment and said to Su Yi, "Sir Chairman, I was just speaking nonsense. Please don't mind it. Evita is right. With you here, our company will definitely develop smoothly. Then the question is, Sir Chairman, since you know that our company can rely on this technology to earn more money in the future, why are you taking the initiative to sell it?" This is for the sake of long-term strategy. Su Yi simply explained his idea of creating a magic machine industry to the two of them. It was different from when he explained his ideas to Heinz and Kennard. Evita and Akali had been listening the entire time. They didn't raise any doubts or worries like Heinz, nor did they seriously discuss the feasibility of this idea with Su Yi like Kennard. Rather, they looked at Su Yi with looks of surprise and admiration. When Su-yi finished explaining his ideas, a collie hugged Su-yi's arm and excitedly said, "Sir Chairman, you really are great. I love you to death." Although Evita wasn't as exaggerated as a collie, one could tell from her eyes that her thoughts weren't that different from a collie's. Su-yi revealed a smile and tapped a collie's head. "Save it. If you keep saying this, be careful of others hearing it. You won't be able to get married in the future." "Humph. It doesn't matter if I don't get married. It's fine as long as Sir Chairman likes me. I'll just be your lover," a collie said with a smile. Convince Steele first. He rolled his eyes at her and pulled his arm back. He said a few words to the two of them and told them to organize the necessary information before leaving the Solaga Art Exhibition Hall. Looking up at the night sky, He turned back to Count's yard. As soon as he walked into the courtyard, Housekeeper Lam greeted him with a strange expression. "Chairman Su, there are guests waiting for you." I know." He nodded. "Is it Great Magician Camilla and Great Magician Taluchi?" "The two Great Magicians are only a part of the group. Other than them, there are 3 other groups of guests waiting for you." Manager Ram looked at Su-yi with a look of surprise. He thought that Chairman Su was even more popular than Samo Count. Even if Samo Count came to Anvil Mars City, there wouldn't be this many guests waiting to see him. "There are 3 other groups?" Su-yi was stunned. "Who are they?" "One group is the representatives of the 2 companies in the city. Another group is the people sent by the West Hack Kingdom. And the last guest is from the Stantine Kingdom." He didn't report his identity, but he said he had Chairman Su's keepsake. "Keepsake? Let me see." Taking the broken jade pendant from Manager Ram, he looked at it and immediately understood. After thinking about it, he said to Manager Ram, "Put this guest in a separate room and have him wait patiently." As for the other 2 groups of guests, the representatives of the 2 companies in Anvil Mars City came looking for Su-yi. He could guess that they were here for today's product exchange and wanted to have a private discussion with Su-yi. They didn't choose to directly come to an agreement at the exchange. As for the people sent by the West Hack Kingdom, it was a bit strange. This West Hack Kingdom was a kingdom to the east of the Lampari Kingdom. Although their relationship with the Lampari Kingdom wasn't bad, they had never been related to Su-yi before. Suddenly sending someone to find Su-yi today, according to common sense, other than the magic machines produced by the new flyer, there shouldn't be any other reason. Arrange for them to wait in another room. Help me stall them for a while. I'll go see the 2 great magicians first." Manager Ram nodded and turned to leave. He turned to the small private courtyard he kept in the yard. When he entered the guest room, he saw Great Magician Camilla talking to Great Magician Taluchi in a low voice. Great Magician Taluchi had an awkward expression, and Great Magician Camilla was clearly trying to persuade him, as if he was trying to convince Great Magician Taluchi. Seeing Su-yi come in, Great Magician Camilla shook his head. "All right, now that brat Su-yi is back, you can ask him if you have any questions." Su-yi wasn't polite. With a smile, he sat down in front of the 2 great magicians and asked Great Magician Taluchi, "You still haven't made your decision?" Just yesterday, Great Magician Camilla had told Su-yi that Great Magician Taluchi wanted to see him and had revealed that Great Magician Taluchi was interested in the 10,000 gold coins a year that the new flyer was offering. Su-yi was naturally overjoyed when he heard this news. If Great Magician Taluchi was willing to join the new flyer, whether it was increasing the strength of the Magic Research Institute of New Flying Chamber of Commerce or increasing the fame of the new flyer, it would be a large help to him. Of course he would welcome him. But Great Magician Taluchi clearly had many scruples, so he wanted to meet with Su-yi to talk. Looking at his current appearance, it was clear that he still hadn't made his decision. Great Magician Taluchi looked up at Su-yi and slightly knit his brows. After thinking for a bit, he hesitantly asked, "Su-yi, if I was like Camilla and went to your company as a special researcher, would my salary be 10,000 gold coins a year?" Hearing Great Magician Taluchi's tone soften, Su-yi was overjoyed. He kept nodding as he said, "Of course, if a great magician like you is willing to come to our company, it would be our company's honor. Of course you would receive the same treatment as Great Magician Camilla." other than the 10,000 gold coins a year, there would be many other benefits that you would definitely be satisfied with. Great Magician Taluchi nodded. After considering it for a bit, he revealed a struggling expression. After hesitating for a bit, he awkwardly said, "Can't the salary can be a bit higher?" Chapter 438. Sue, E, and Great Magician Camilla were stunned at the same time. Great Magician Camilla looked at Great Magician Taluchi with a strange expression and couldn't help saying with a chuckle, "Hey, Taluchi, I always thought that you were the one who didn't care about gold coins among us old fellows, but I never thought that you would change this much. You're even more greedy than me. 10,000 gold coins a year isn't enough? How much do you want?" Seeing Great Magician Taluchi's awkward and ashamed expression, Sui shook his head at Great Magician Camilla. He turned to Great Magician Taluchi and said in a very calm voice, "I'm afraid I can only say sorry about this. Our company's salary has strict rules and regulations. It can't be casually added. Moreover, you have just joined our company, so if your salary surpasses Great Magician Camilla's, it wouldn't be justified." Great Magician Taluchi gave a sigh and nodded. "I understand. This was me being greedy." Great Magician Camilla said with a frown, "I say, Taluchi, what kind of problem have you met? Are you that lacking in money?" "It's hard to explain." Great Magician Taluchi shook his head and stood up. "In short, 10,000 gold coins a year is far from enough. Since Sui can't give me a higher salary, I can only think of another way." Seeing that Great Magician Taluchi was about to leave, Sui quickly stood up and pulled him back. "Your Excellency, Great Magician, if you have a problem that requires a large amount of gold coins to solve, I think I have the ability to help you. How about you tell me your problem, and let me consider how to help you?" Sui said in a sincere voice. "It's no use." Great Magician Taluchi gave a sigh. "That place is a bottomless pit. I can't keep borrowing money from you, right? Moreover, I'm afraid I can't repay you." "That might not be the case. If you join our new Flyers Academy of Magic, as long as you develop some outstanding magic machine technology, the reward won't be small." Sui said with a faint smile. "No matter how much the reward is, can I earn at least 50,000 gold coins a year?" Great Magician Taluchi gave a bitter laugh. 50,000 gold coins? Sui knit his brows and exchanged a look with Great Magician Camilla. After thinking for a bit, he said to Great Magician Taluchi with a serious expression, "Your Excellency, Great Magician, if you have financial problems that require you to invest 50,000 gold coins a year, I think you should sit down and discuss this matter with me. I may not have much ability in other areas, but when it comes to making money, I don't think there's anyone in the Lampari Kingdom who can compare to me, right? Even Great Magician Eisenkel can't." "That's right. I've always said that this kid Su Yi's magic talent is very outstanding, but compared to his ability to earn money, his magic talent isn't much," Great Magician Camilla said in support. "If his ability to earn money and magic talent were switched, I can guarantee that this kid would definitely become a grand magus in the future." Great Magician Taluchi looked at Great Magician Camilla before looking at Sui. After thinking for a bit, he sat back down. "Sui, I suddenly thought of something. Your new flyer has been investing in various parts of the kingdom during this time, right?" "That's right." Sui nodded, feeling a bit surprised. "I never thought that you would care about this. There's no other way. I've been thinking about how to earn money during this time." Great Magician Taluchi gave a self-deprecating laugh. "Sui, if I invited your new flyer to invest in a place, could you guarantee that you would help the people there earn at least 50,000 gold coins a year?" Sui knit his brows. "That depends on what place you're talking about. If it's a desert that has nothing, then even if I had the ability, I wouldn't be able to do anything." Great Magician Taluchi said with a bitter smile. "That's right. The place I'm talking about is no different from a desert. Kariska Island. Have you heard of it?" "Kariska Island?" Sui thought about it. "It seems to be an island not far from the western coast of the Black Rice Wasteland. It's said that it's filled with pirates." "Filled with pirates?" Great Magician Taluchi continued to give a bitter smile. "Although I want to praise Sui for being so knowledgeable, actually knowing about Kariska Island, but to say that it's filled with pirates. All right, this isn't wrong. Who told the living conditions on the island to be so bad? If they don't become pirates, many people can't survive. Su and Great Magician Camilla looked at Great Magician Taluchi with strange expressions. Why did he suddenly mention Karska Island? Could it be that he was related to this island famous for its pirates? There's no need to guess. I was born on Karska Island and grew up there. Su and Great Magician Camilla were stunned at the same time. No matter what, they never would have thought that Great Magician Taluchi was born on this pirate island. Su looked at Great Magician Camilla, and Great Magician Camilla shook his head. Don't look at me. Although I'm old friends with Taluchi, I've never heard him mention his background. Being born on Karska Island isn't anything glorious. Of course, I'm not willing to casually mention it. Great Magician Taluchi gave a sigh. Great Magician Taluchi gave a sigh. If it wasn't for the hope I had for you, Su, I wouldn't have told you this either. Thank you for your trust. Su thought about it before asking. Then, Your Excellency, Great Magician, you want to earn at least 40 to 50,000 gold coins a year. Could it be that you want to change the living conditions of the people of your hometown with your own strength? Great Magician Taluchi looked at Su in surprise. You actually guessed it. This isn't hard to guess. If it wasn't for this reason, I can't think of any reason that would make a great magician like you feel so troubled. Su said with a smile. All right, your guess is right. Karska Island is my hometown, but the living conditions on the island are too bad. I grew up on the island and learned magic by coincidence. In the end, I even became a great mage. I've always wanted to rely on my own strength to change the lives of the people in my hometown. That's why I've been supporting them all these years. But I can't hold on anymore. No wonder you've always been poorer than me. Great Magician Camilla muttered. I say, Taluchi, since the living conditions on Karska Island are so bad, why don't you just let them move out? With your status, it shouldn't be a problem to ask the royal parliament for some citizenship, right? No, it's a very big problem. The bitter smile on Great Magician Taluchi's face didn't stop. I made this request to the royal parliament before, but it was rejected by them. Do you know the reason? Because of the pirates? Great Magician Camilla guessed. Right? The smile on Great Magician Taluchi's face became even more bitter. Although I want to refute the reason given by the royal parliament, there's no other way. Actually, from an objective point of view, it isn't wrong for Karska Island to be called a pirate island. If I hadn't left the island in the past to learn magic, perhaps I would have become a pirate right now. A great magician-level pirate. Su looked at Great Magician Taluchi with a strange expression before returning to normal. Your Excellency, Great Magician, based on what you've said, I think your original plan was to use your 50,000 gold coins a year to support the people on the island and improve their lives, right? Right, that was my plan. There are close to 5,000 people on the island, so even 50,000 gold coins isn't enough. However, the island is still a bit self-sufficient, so it's barely enough. Actually, I just hope that after they have a stable life, they won't become pirates anymore. That way, in a few years, I can make another request to the royal parliament and have them move to our Lampari kingdom. Su was silent for a bit before giving a sigh. He shook his head and said, Your Excellency, Great Magician, I have to say your idea is just too naive. Great Magician Taluchi's eyes popped out, and Great Magician Camilla looked at Su in surprise. This brat, he actually dared to say that a great magician was naive? He simply didn't know how high the heavens were. Your Excellency, Great Magician, a person's greed is limitless. I'm certain that even if you give them all this money, they will always want a better life. Even if they receive the money you give them, they will still become pirates because they think that they can live a better life. Great Magician Taluchi had a sad expression. How could I not know this? But I feel that I haven't helped them enough. If they can have a stable and prosperous life, who would be willing to risk their lives and become a pirate? Su couldn't help giving a sigh as he shook his head. Perhaps Great Magician Taluchi wasn't naive, but rather he had deep feelings for the Karska island he was born in. Su couldn't understand the price he had to pay for this feeling, but that didn't affect his understanding of Great Magician Taluchi's thoughts. All right, Your Excellency, great magician, I understand what you mean. But I have to remind you that even if you give them 40, 50,000, or even 100,000 gold coins a year, it still won't help. For Kariska Island, that is close to 5,000 people, this bit of gold coins won't be able to change anything. Su-yi said with a serious expression. I just want to do my best. Great magician Taluchi said with a sigh. There are many ways to do your best. To be honest, you chose the least efficient method. Su-yi said. If I had to choose, I would definitely choose another method. Great magician Taluchi's eyes lit up. Then Su-yi, do you have a good method to solve this problem? Su-yi revealed a faint smile. Of course. Chapter 439. Great magician Camilla watched great magician Taluchi disappear into the darkness of the yard and gave a soft sigh as he shook his head. I've known Taluchi for all these years, and only today did I know that he came from Kariska Island. Moreover, he has to bear the pressure of everyone on the island. It really is. Su-yi looked at the hesitant great magician Camilla and thought that even the conservative great magician Camilla wouldn't agree with great magician Taluchi's actions. Even if it wasn't wrong to want to change the living conditions of his hometown, in Su-yi's eyes, great magician Taluchi's method of repaying with gold coins was a big mistake and even seemed a bit naive. Su-yi deeply understood that if he wanted to change a person's life, he had to change their views first. Directly giving money could change them for a while, but to fundamentally change them, this was the most inferior method. So after a deep discussion with great magician Taluchi, Su-yi denied great magician Taluchi's idea of taking 40 to 50,000 gold coins a year from him. Although, to Su-yi, great magician Taluchi was worth 40 to 50,000 gold coins, or even more. He could give this money to great magician Taluchi, but he couldn't give it to the people of Kariska Island who Su-yi thought hated work. However, great magician Taluchi clearly stated that as long as Su-yi could help him solve this problem, he would be willing to work for the new flyer even if he didn't get a single cent a year. If he couldn't, he could only find other help. Su-yi naturally wouldn't let go of this chance to recruit a great magician. So he made a suggestion to great magician Taluchi. He decided to take some time to inspect Kariska Island and decide how to invest in improving the environment. Before this, Su-yi suggested using the new flyer's name to donate some daily necessities to Kariska Island to temporarily improve the lives of the people of Kariska Island. Great magician Taluchi happily accepted this suggestion and said that he would seriously consider working for the new flyer. As for the final decision, it would depend on whether Su-yi could achieve his goal in the end. Actually, Su-yi, although Taluchi is a great magician, I don't think it's worth it for you to do this much for him. Great magician Camilla suddenly said. Su-yi looked at him and laughed. What? Grandpa, are you jealous? Great magician Camilla looked at Su-yi. What am I jealous of? You're jealous that I've done more for him than I have for you. Hey, you're Steele's husband. We are family. What are you saying this for? I just feel that. Even if you recruit another great magician, it doesn't help the Frestac Chamber of Commerce's magic research that much, right? No, it helped a lot. He shook his head. Our Chamber of Commerce will only produce more and more magic machines in the future, so there will naturally be more and more research projects. Grandfather, don't you feel that there are many projects you can't manage? Great magician Camilla gave a cold snort. That's because the level is too low and I don't care about it. Su-yi laughed and didn't expose great magician Camilla's boasting. He continued, no matter what, it's good to have another great magician-level researcher. At the very least, we can let others know that our new flyer can hire 2 great magicians at the same time. I think that like this, our company will be much more attractive to other magicians. Nonsense. If you can recruit all 5 great magicians in the Lampari Kingdom into the company, not only will the new flyer become the #1 company in the Lampari Kingdom, even in the signs, it will be second to none. Hey, if possible, I even want to hire a few archmagi. Grandfather, do you know any archmagi? Can you help me contact them? Su-yi licked his lips as he spoke. Great magician Camilla rolled his eyes at Su. Stop dreaming. Any archmagus is an important person in their country. How could they come to work for a company? He shrugged his shoulders, knowing that he was indeed dreaming. New Flyer being able to recruit great magician Camilla as a researcher was all because of Steele. Otherwise, great magician Camilla could do anything, so why would he choose to join the weak New Flyer? Now that he finally had a chance to recruit great magician Talucci into the company, he naturally had to go all out. He couldn't miss this chance. After great magician Camilla left, he thought for a bit before going to see the representatives of the two companies in Anvilmar City and the guests from the West Hack Kingdom. Just as he had expected, the representatives of the two companies in Anvilmar City had come to discuss the matter of technology transfer with him. These two companies were small companies and weren't strong enough for them to take a single piece of technology. So, the two of them wanted to work together to buy the technology from New Flyer. So they came to ask if this was possible. Naturally wouldn't reject them. Anyway, to him, the most important reason for selling the technology was to spread the technology and attract the interest of the large companies in the Lampari Kingdom. This would further promote the development of the magic machine industry in the Lampari Kingdom. As for the secondary reason of making money, it didn't matter to him if the two companies worked together or not. It was fine as long as they could pay enough gold coins together. As for how they would divide the benefits and responsibilities after receiving the technology, that wasn't related to As for the guests from the West Hack Kingdom, they didn't have any clear goals. They just represented the West Hack Kingdom's ambassador to the Lampari Kingdom to invite to a banquet at the West Hack Kingdom's embassy tomorrow night, where the West Hack Kingdom's ambassador would personally invite him. It was different from when he was in Bana City. Didn't reject this invitation. After promising that he would be there on time, he politely sent the guests from the embassy out. After seeing these two groups of guests, it was already late at night. After he sent the guests from the West Hack Kingdom's embassy away. He talked to Manager Ram before coming to a small room in the back of the courtyard. Seeing the guests from the Principality of Constantine patiently waiting in the room, he asked, "Did Anklo have you come?" That person didn't reply and looked at with a vigilant look. Quite cautious. It seems like Anklo isn't without any strength at all. Revealed a smile. He took out the other half of the jade pendant from his chest and put it together with the jade pendant Manager Ram gave him, not missing a single bit. Seeing this, the vigilance on that person's face lessened a bit. He said with a nod, "Yes. Chairman Sir Anklo sent me to give you some news." "He's finally prepared to make a move?" He asked. "Yes. But Sir Anklo said that he needs Chairman Su's help." "Oh, it isn't that I can't help him, but did he say what kind of repayment he would give me?" Sir Anklo said that as long as you're willing to help him, the New Flyer will have special privileges in the Principality of Constantine. This repayment is too vague. He waved his hand. "But tell Anklo for me that I'm willing to do my best to support him in the Principality of Constantine, because he can be considered the Principality of Constantine's only hope. And for our New Flyer, working with a smart person is much better than working with a group of greedy worms." "All right, I'll pass on this message to Sir Anklo." "Good. Now tell me, what kind of help does Anklo need?" "It's mainly weapons. Sir Anklo said that he hopes to buy a batch of standard alloy weapons from your New Flyer. He's quite anxious." He revealed a faint smile. "All right, that's not a problem. What about the rest?" Sir Anklo said that if he can provide some military magic machines like magic trebuchets, he will be even more grateful. "Military magic machines?" He knit his brows and pinched his forehead. After seriously considering it for a bit, he shook his head. "I can't agree to this for now. Tell him that there's no problem with weapons, but there are too many factors involved with military magic machines, so I can't casually give them to him." A look of disappointment flashed on that person's face, but he still wasn't willing to give up. Sir Anklo said that if you agree to this request, your New Flyer will receive even more benefits in the Principality of Constantine. He waved his hand with a smile. "We'll discuss this when he can speak in the Principality of Constantine. As for now, there's still a need to consider it." The person was silent for a bit before slowly nodding. "Chairman Sir Anklo hopes that you can take some time to visit the Principality of Constantine and discuss this with him. There are many things that aren't convenient to pass on through me. That's not a problem. Tell him that I'll take a trip to the Principality of Constantine after the new year. All right. After exchanging a few answers with Su Yi, the person didn't hesitate to bid farewell to Su Yi. When he came to the door, Su Yi suddenly called out to him. There's something else that you have to pass on to Anklo for me. Please speak. Tell Anklo that since he has made his decision, he shouldn't hesitate at all. Otherwise, it won't just be him that will suffer. It will also affect the Principality of Constantine. Su Yi said with a serious look. The person narrowed his eyes and looked at Su Yi for a while before slowly nodding. Sir Anklo has already made his decision. That's good. Pass on my blessings to him. I hope that he can realize his dream. Thank you. Chapter 440. You did the right thing. The military magic machines are very powerful. They can even be considered the core equipment of our Lampari Kingdom's army. So of course we can't sell them to other countries. Major Mac calmly nodded, expressing his praise for Su Yi rejecting the Principality of Constantine's request to buy the military magic machines. After meeting Anklo's envoy last night, Su Yi went to the army headquarters training ground to find Major Mac Conley the next morning. Other than meeting according to their agreement, he also told Major Mac Conley about his conversation with Anklo's envoy last night. Military magic machines were different from normal household magic machines, so they would be controlled to a certain extent. It was fine if it was normal equipment, but military magic machines were very important to the Lampuri Kingdom's Royal Army headquarters. So naturally, he had to inform the army headquarters ahead of time and obtain their approval. But the army headquarters didn't want such an important thing to be sold outside the Lampari Kingdom. So Major Mac Conley agreed with Su Yi's decision. Su Yi laughed. Since the army headquarters agrees that the military magic machines are the core equipment, shouldn't we make more orders? Major Mac Conley gave a dry laugh. We still need to discuss it before we can make a decision. Su Yi said in a curious voice, this isn't right. When the army headquarters didn't have money before, they still made many orders with our company. The kingdom's finances have improved this year, so the army headquarters budget should have increased by quite a bit. So why are they hesitating to buy the military magic machines? Major Mac Conley slowly shook his head. After hesitating a bit, he said with a sigh, Chairman Su, you have a close relationship with Her Highness, so you should have heard that His Highness Eric is organizing the Northern Army to attack the Sac Kingdom, right? I have indeed heard Her Highness mention this before. Su Yi nodded. But how is this related to the army headquarters hesitating to buy the military magic machines? If they really want to attack the Sac Kingdom, shouldn't they be buying more military magic machines? Our Chamber of Commerce has just developed 2 new military magic machines. If we give them to the Northern Army, the counterattack will be much smoother. I'm very clear on this, and I believe in the abilities of your new flyer. But Major Mac Conley had a bitter smile on his face. Chairman Su, the Northern Army is currently under His Highness Eric's command, and your new flyer's relationship with Her Highness 70. Su, he was a bit surprised before saying with a frown, His Highness wouldn't ignore the big picture, right? No matter what relationship our company has with Her Highness 70, there is no doubt about the use of these military magic machines. Understand. You understand. In fact, His Highness also understands this. But Chairman Su, you and His Highness, there are many things that you can't do. I think you can understand that. I understand. Su, he couldn't help giving a cold laugh. Although he hadn't met His Highness Eric yet, just based on the decision he made, he could see that His Highness was a bit short-sighted. Even if their positions were different, attacking the Sac Kingdom was an important matter for the Lampari Kingdom. For this kind of important matter, if he gave up his advantage because of his position, wouldn't he be sacrificing the lives of the Northern Army and disregarding the benefits of the Lampari Kingdom? Thinking of this, Su Yi's heart suddenly skipped a beat. His Majesty didn't say anything about His Highness' decision? Su Yi asked. Although he didn't have much contact with the king, Su Yi could tell from this short contact that Lampuri 13th was worthy of being called a wise king by everyone. He had courage, vision, and was very decisive. He didn't believe that he couldn't see the problem behind His Highness Eric's decision. His Majesty did not say anything. Major Matt calmly shook his head. Matt calmly shook his head, because when he sent the two princes and Her Highness 70 out, His Majesty said that he wouldn't interfere with their decisions. But what His Highness Eric wants to do this time is related to the entire Lampari kingdom. Could it be that His Majesty wants to sit back and watch? He said in a surprised voice. Don't try to guess His Majesty's thoughts. Major Matt calmly shook his head before saying, but I think that His Majesty wants to see His Highness Eric's abilities through this matter. Using the entire Northern Army to test His Highness Eric? He deeply knit his brows. His Majesty isn't worried about going overboard and putting the entire Lampari kingdom in a disadvantageous position. I've said it before, don't try to guess His Majesty's thoughts. Major Matt calmly seriously warned before patting his shoulder and continuing. All right, let's stop discussing this matter. I had you come here today mainly to let you see something. He followed Major Matt calmly to a warehouse beside the training ground in a confused manner. When he came in, he saw a giant object standing in the center of the warehouse. Looking over, he was stunned. This is a magic trebuchet? He walked over to the magic trebuchet that looked like the one made by New Flyer, and after seriously looking it over, he shook his head. No, this thing is quite different from the magic trebuchet made by our company. Major Matt calmly. Could it be that your army headquarters is secretly researching magic trebuchet? Do you think that our army headquarters has too much money and nowhere to spend it? With your New Flyer providing the magic trebuchet, why would we research it ourselves? Major Matt calmly shook his head. Looking at the magic trebuchet in the warehouse, his eyes became serious. This magic trebuchet was captured by the Northern Army during the Sac Kingdom's counterattack on the Muerto Mountains. He was stunned. That means this magic trebuchet was made by the Sac Kingdom? Young hero Matt calmly carefully looked at Su Yi's expression, and after confirming that he wasn't faking it, he slowly nodded. That's right. Su Yi's expression became incomparably serious. He went around the magic trebuchet several times and even climbed to the top of the magic trebuchet to carefully look it over. After looking over all the details, Su Yi's expression became even more serious. How is it? Chairman Su, how is this magic trebuchet compared to the magic trebuchet made by your New Flyer? Major Matt calmly asked. Su Yi looked at him and asked back, what do you think? Major Matt calmly gave a shrug. I think it's far from enough. Although this magic trebuchet is quite big, whether it is the strength or frequency of the rocks thrown, it's much worse than your New Flyer's magic trebuchet. The overall power is far from enough. And I also think the same. But Su Yi looked up at the giant magic trebuchet that was as tall as 3 people. There was a bit of confusion in his eyes. The Sac Kingdom can actually make a magic trebuchet. We really can't underestimate them. Other than the magic trebuchet, have they made any magic repeating crossbows? Not yet. Major Matt calmly shook his head. Major Matt calmly shook his head. Chairman Su, I had you look at this thing mainly because I wanted to ask, do you think this magic trebuchet is similar to your New Flyer's magic trebuchet? Su narrowed his eyes. Are you doubting our company? I do have my suspicions. Major Matt calmly nodded with a serious expression. Major Matt calmly gave a serious look. Chairman Su, you've said before that although the magic trebuchet looks big, it is actually a very precise magic machine. If there is a single mistake, the entire magic trebuchet can't work, so it is very hard to develop it. That's right, I did say this. Su Yi reached out to point at the magic trebuchet beside him. A single magic trebuchet uses several tons of steel, and there are over 200 parts. Each part is very precise, and as long as there is a single mistake, not to mention making it work, it will be hard to assemble it. So I want to ask, how did the Sac Kingdom make a magic trebuchet that requires this much precision, and is this hard to develop? Major Matt Conley's eyes looking at Su Yi suddenly became incomparably sharp, like 2 daggers stabbing into him. Su Yi met Major Matt Conley's eyes and didn't give up at all. He slowly said with a serious look, I understand that you're doubting us, but Major Matt Conley, I must seriously tell you that our company will not secretly give such an important thing to a country other than the Lampari Kingdom, not to mention an enemy country like the Sac Kingdom. Major Matt calmly looked at Sue E for a while before giving a slight nod. If I didn't believe you, Chairman Sue, you wouldn't be standing here talking to me right now. You would have already been thrown in jail. Sue E revealed a faint smile. If I wanted to betray the Lampari Kingdom, it wouldn't be as simple as a magic trebuchet. Major Matt Conley's expression changed slightly, clearly thinking of the serious consequences if Sue E and New Flyer betrayed the Lampari Kingdom. After thinking for a bit, his expression changed and he revealed a smile to Sue E again. I believe in Chairman Sue's loyalty to the kingdom. But the Sac Kingdom can actually make a magic trebuchet. I hope that Chairman Sue can give me and the Army headquarters an explanation as soon as possible. If Chairman Sue can't do it, the Army headquarters will send people to help you. The last sentence was close to a threat and a warning, but Sue didn't care about Major Matt Conley's tone at all. Compared to Major Matt Conley's threat and warning, the most important thing to understand right now was whether this magic trebuchet was developed by the Sac Kingdom after seeing the magic trebuchet used by the Northern Army, or if they stole the magic trebuchet data from New Flyer and copied it. If it was the latter, this problem was without a doubt much more serious. Chapter 441. To figure out the problem with this magic trebuchet. Of course, it wasn't something that could be done in a day or two. Because Major Matt Conley had rejected Sue Yi's request to take this magic trebuchet back to Banna City's Falling Rain Valley to slowly study it. After discussing it with Major Matt Conley, Sue wrote a letter to the New Flyer to have Bordeaux and the other magic mechanical engineers who were responsible for developing the magic trebuchet come to Anvilmar City. With the researchers who are currently taking the Sorcerer's Guild certification exam in Anvilmar City, they could conduct a detailed evaluation of this magic trebuchet. Other than confirming the source of this magic trebuchet, they also had to evaluate the might and quality of this magic trebuchet. This was to ensure that when the Northern Army fought the Sac Kingdom's army, they would be prepared if they met this magic trebuchet again. After doing this, the morning was already over. Sue rejected Major Matt Conley's invitation to stay for a meal and sat in a rented horse carriage, heading to Anvilmar City's south gate alone. Looking up at the sky, he saw that the sun that didn't have much warmth in the winter was already above his head. Sue knew that it was about time. As expected, in less than 10 minutes, on the road to Anvilmar City's south gate, there was a motorcade of several dozen magic cars that quickly drove over from the horizon. Although the people of Anvilmar City already knew about the New Flyer's magic cars from the newspapers, and they had seen the magic cars between Banna City and Anvilmar City, this was their first time seeing such a large motorcade. The people on both sides of the road couldn't help stopping as they watched the motorcade drive over in a daze. The one in front of the motorcade was a medium-sized magic passenger car. When it approached Sue, it began to slow down and stopped right beside Sue. When the door opened, the first one to come out was Kennard. "Sir Chairman, the first batch is here. Do you want to check it?" Kennard asked with a smile. "What's there to worry about when you're handling things?" Sue shook his head with a smile. He looked at the two medium-sized magic passenger cars behind them and found that there was a group of beautiful young girls who either had rabbit ears or long furry tails behind them, but they were all very beautiful and slender. Did Steele finally decide to let the New Moon Troop come? Sue asked. She said that since her chairman is in Anvilmar City, she didn't need to come because she believed that you would be able to arrange it. Of course, she couldn't miss this chance, so she had the New Moon Troop come with me. Sir President, what do you think we should do with them? It's a good thing I was already prepared. Sue gave a shrug. Let them follow us into the city later. As for their accommodation, Sue glanced at Kennard and asked, "All right, you should go home first, right? What about Sophia? Why didn't she come back with you?" Sophia said that since you weren't here, she had to stay and take care of Steele for you, so she didn't come back. Kennard replied with a smile. She took care of Steele? Sue, he had a look of disbelief. It's already good that she didn't cause trouble for Steele. Kennard laughed. I think that she shouldn't have left for long, so she wasn't willing to come back. As for taking care of Steele, I also feel that it would be hard for her to do it. He couldn't help shaking his head. He looked over and saw a familiar figure coming out of the medium-sized magic passenger car. Linda, why are you here? Sui looked at Linda, who was curiously looking around in surprise, and asked this in a surprised voice. You're not taking care of Steele at home. What are you doing here? Linda stopped looking around and looked at Sui with a blush on her face. She lowered her head and said in a low voice, The madam had me come. Steele, had you come? Why? Sui was even more confused. The madam said that you would be away for a long time and would be going to Seoul City, so it wouldn't be good if there was no one to take care of you. So she sent me. Linda replied, It's not my first time away from home. What is there to take care of? Sui rolled his eyes. Linda looked up at Sui before lowering her head again and saying in an even smaller voice, the madam said, Master, when you go to Seoul City this time, you should see Princess Caroline. Sui was surprised before understanding. He felt a bit angry and found it funny. All right, so she was worried about this and sent you as a watcher. Sui shook his head. He looked at the cautious Linda and sighed. Forget it. Since she sent you, you can stay here. Having someone I can trust by my side will save me a lot of trouble. Hearing Sui agree, Linda immediately responded happily and quickly stood beside Sui. Sir Chairman, you still haven't said how to arrange the Beastmen girls of the New Moon Troupe. Kennard reminded. Oh, Sui turned to look at the Beastmen girls who were looking around with even more curious eyes than Linda. He thought for a bit and said, Let them stay with me in Samo Count's residence. It'll be easier for me to make arrangements for them. All right. Then, Sir Chairman, when do you plan on leaving for Seoul City? Kennard asked. If nothing unexpected happens, I'll go to the Sorcerer's Guild certification exam tomorrow morning and leave at noon. Samo Count must be anxious waiting for me. Understand, I'll take care of the rest. Kennard nodded. Sui couldn't help smiling. Ever since Kennard became the CEO of the company, he could save a lot of time and effort. For example, he accepted Samo Count's invitation to go to Seoul City to invest in the production base. There were many things to do, but Sui only gave orders and didn't do anything. Kennard took care of everything and brought all the manpower and resources he needed over. Moreover, Sui was assured in handing over the matters after he left Anvilmar City to Kennard, so he didn't need to stay here any longer. It's been hard on you these past few days. Go home and see your parents first and have a good rest. Sui patted Kennard's shoulder to show his praise. It isn't considered hard. Sir Chairman, I think that since I'm back, Lord Father might invite you to my home as a guest. Are you willing to go? Of course, why wouldn't I? Sui said with a smile. If it wasn't for the fact that you were coming soon, I would have gone to see Emma Count in the next few days. But it depends on the specific time. I have to head to Seoul City as soon as possible. All right, I will discuss this with Father. After this, Kennard led the transport magic car to the warehouse that Sui had already rented outside the city. Sui had 2 medium-sized magic cars take him, Linda, and the Beastmen girls of the New Moon Troupe into Anvilmar City. The 2 medium-sized magic cars attracted the attention of countless people on the way. When they stopped in front of Count Samo's yard, a group of beautiful and cute Beastmen girls jumped out and attracted everyone's attention. When Sui got out, a middle-aged man came out of the crowd and loudly asked Sui, Hello, I am Reporter Rector from the Anvilmar Times. May I ask if you are the new Flyers chairman, Sui? Yes, I am Sui. Hello, Reporter Rector. Sui politely greeted him. Rector's face lit up as he looked at the Beastmen girls behind Sui. He asked with an excited look, Chairman Sui, based on the appearance of these girls, they should be Beastmen, right? That's right. Based on their appearances, they come from the Fox, Cat, Leopard, and other Beastmen clans. They're all young Beastmen girls. Sui replied. Hearing Sui's response, the surrounding crowd gave a sigh. For most humans, Beastmen were ugly, cruel, and vicious in their minds, but these Beastmen girls in front of them all looked pure and beautiful. With their Beastmen characteristics, they looked very cute, not looking cruel or vicious at all. Chairman Sui, I know that your new flyer has hired many workers from other clans. Are these Beastmen girls also your company's employees? What kind of work do they do in your company? Rector asked again. No, they are members of the New Moon Chamber of Commerce's New Moon Troop. They have nothing to do with our new flyer. New Moon Troop? Rector revealed a surprised expression. Could it be that these Beastmen girls' work is singing and dancing? You don't believe me? Sui smiled. He turned around and waved his hand at a fox girl. Come, Avril, sing a song for everyone. Being stared at by the surrounding people, Avril had stage fright, but after Sui patted her shoulder encouragingly, she gathered her courage and opened her mouth. Avril's voice was clear and beautiful, yet extremely coquettish. It sounded like someone was using a fur ball to tease one's ears. It made one feel extremely comfortable, yet at the same time, it also made one's heart itch. Unknowingly, the surrounding people were attracted by this song, and they all quieted down to listen. Seeing the surrounding people's reaction, Sui nodded in satisfaction. When he first heard Avril's voice, he was shocked and deeply attracted to it. Now that he saw her reaction in front of everyone, the New Moon Troop's fame would instantly rise. With this strong advertising foundation, the New Moon Troop's task of creating a new image for the Beastmen would be much easier. Chapter 442. The technology and signs couldn't compare to Earth's, so the so-called embassy naturally couldn't compare to the high-end embassies on Earth. But as one of the few peaceful countries in the Lampari Kingdom, the West Hack Kingdom's embassy in Anvilmar City still took up quite a bit of space. However, it was apparent that the West Hack Kingdom didn't place much importance on this embassy. The entire embassy appeared to be nothing more than an ordinary residential building. Apart from the flag that represented the West Hack Kingdom, there wasn't anything else that made it seem like an important building. Sui had heard a phrase on Earth. When a country established an embassy in another country, it symbolized the image of their country, as well as the importance they placed on the other country. This phrase was also true in signs. From Sui's point of view, the reason why the West Hack Kingdom's embassy in the Lampari Kingdom was this normal was not because they didn't care about the image of their country, but rather because they didn't care about the Lampari Kingdom that much. After all, compared to the West Hack Kingdom that could compete with the Kanla Empire and the Malar Empire, the Lampari Kingdom that was still in chaos 10 years ago and could be considered one of the weakest countries on the continent, they weren't on the same level. So when Sui arrived at the West Hack Kingdom's embassy at 7 o'clock in the evening with an invitation in hand, although the waiter was very warm and the West Hack Kingdom's ambassador had a face full of smiles, Sui could easily feel a sense of disdain. Sui thought that since the West Hack Kingdom's embassy had sent someone to invite him, they would definitely have something important to discuss. But after seeing this scene, if it wasn't for the fact that he saw a few acquaintances at the banquet, he really would have turned to leave and wouldn't waste time here. Chairman Rank, based on the attitude of Ambassador Palomas towards you, this shouldn't be the first time you've been invited to this banquet, right? Sui asked the first familiar person he met, the Serene Chamber of Commerce's Chairman Rank, who also came from Bana City. That's right. At the end of each year, Ambassador Palomas will invite our Lampari Kingdom's merchants to a banquet, which can be considered pulling in some business for their West Hack Kingdom. Chairman Rank casually replied before looking at Sui with a bit of a smile. But this Ambassador Palomas will be making a big joke this time. It was hard to invite Chairman Sui here, and he's treating you like this. Isn't he afraid of offending your new flyer? He represents the West Hack Kingdom. Only merchants like us who want to do business with the West Hack Kingdom are afraid of offending him. How could he be afraid of offending me? Sui gave a shrug. No matter what, I still hope to fight for the West Hack Kingdom's market. Chairman Rank, on account of being old friends, tell me, what is the investment environment in the West Hack Kingdom like? Speaking of the investment environment, Chairman Rank took a sip of the red wine in his hand and thought for a bit before saying, overall, it's quite good. The West Hack Kingdom hasn't experienced any turmoil in all these years. The political situation is stable, and the living conditions of the people are much better than our Lampari Kingdom. They also have strong spending power, so the market is very wide. The only problem is... What is it? President Rank glanced at Ambassador Palomas, who was talking to a merchant in the distance, and lowered his voice slightly. The West Hat Kingdom's political situation is very stable, but it's been stable for too long. The officials are becoming more and more extravagant. Su Yi instantly understood. Chairman Rang's words were clearly referring to how serious the corruption problem in the West Hat Kingdom was. Su Yi pointed at Ambassador Palomas. What about this Ambassador Palomas? Chairman Rank took another sip of red wine as a strange smile appeared on his face, but he didn't say anything. Su Yi's heart lit up. He revealed a smile and didn't keep asking. After chatting with Chairman Rank for a bit, Su Yi saw the merchant beside Ambassador Palomas leave and walked over. Ambassador Palomas. Ambassador Palomas. Two shouts sounded at the same time as another merchant from the Lampari Kingdom came over from another direction and greeted Ambassador Palomas at the same time as Su Yi. The two were surprised and looked at each other. Su Yi discovered that the person who had the same idea as him was actually the chairman of the Walmart Chamber of Commerce, Colmar Runst. Hey, Chairman Runst, hello. I saw you earlier, but didn't have time to greet you. Su Yi waved his hand. Chairman Runst returned Su Yi's smile and glanced at Ambassador Palomas before nodding at Su Yi. Since you have business with the ambassador, you can chat with him first. Lord Ambassador, I'll come find you later. After saying that, Chairman Runst raised his wine glass to Su Yi and Ambassador Palomas before turning to leave. Ambassador Palomas withdrew his gaze from Chairman Runst and turned to look at Su Yi in surprise. The Walmart Chamber of Commerce was the largest chamber of commerce in the Lampari Kingdom, so he naturally recognized Chairman Runst. In Ambassador Palomas's view, there were no more than a handful of merchants who could be on equal footing with Chairman Runst in the Lampari Kingdom. So under normal circumstances, it should be this unknown merchant in front of him who took the initiative to back down. However, to his surprise, it was Chairman Runst who took the initiative to back down. Thinking of Chairman Runst's attitude towards Su Yi, Ambassador Palomas put away his contempt for Su Yi and smiled at him. May I ask who you are? Lord Ambassador, please allow me to introduce myself. I'm Su Yi, the chairman of the New Flyer. Su Yi, New Flyer? Ambassador Palomas had a bit of thought in his eyes, but he immediately revealed a smile as he warmly said, So, it's Chairman Su, hello. Based on his expression, Su Yi could easily tell that this fellow didn't know who he was. It seems like our company's fame isn't big enough. Su Yi couldn't help muttering in his heart, but he said with a smile, Lord Ambassador, our New Flyer is a company that mainly produces magic machines. Our current main products are, I know, it's those magic fans and magic refrigerators, right? Ambassador Palomas cut off Su Yi without any courtesy. Your Lampari Kingdom has many companies that produce these things in the past 2 years, and your New Flyer seems to be doing quite well, isn't that right? Su Yi couldn't help being happy. Based on the ambassador's words, not only did he not understand New Flyer, he didn't know anything about the magic machine industry at all. He actually said that New Flyer was doing quite well among the magic machine companies. This industry was created by New Flyer alone, all right. Su Yi was very suspicious now. The invitation to this banquet wasn't decided by the ambassador at all. He might not even have looked at it. Otherwise, how could he be this ignorant? Even if he looked down on Ambassador Palomas in his heart, Su Yi still had a respectful smile on his face as he replied, Yes, our company is doing quite well in this aspect. So, Sir Ambassador, do you think our company is qualified to invest in the West Hat Kingdom? Investment? Ambassador Palomas looked at Su Yi in surprise. Your company has the ability to invest in our West Hat Kingdom? Chairman Su, this isn't a joke. You have to know that even a casual investment would require at least a few 100,000 gold coins. Su Yi smiled as he nodded. Yes, I understand. Our company's initial plan is to invest 1,000,000 gold coins in the West Hat Kingdom and establish 2 factories to produce some of our household magic machines. Sir Ambassador, what do you think? 1,000,000 gold coins? Ambassador Palomas looked at Su Yi with a stunned expression. He didn't think that this young guy would actually say that he wanted to invest 1,000,000 gold coins. Hearing this number, Ambassador Palomas, who had been somewhat absent-minded before, immediately put on a smile and pulled Su Yi towards the corner of the hall. Come, Chairman Su, let's sit down and talk. Half an hour later, Su-yi returned to the hall with a smile on his face. President Rank was the first to squeeze in. What? Did you reach an agreement with him? We only reached a preliminary agreement. Su-yi shook his head. But Ambassador Palomas is really enthusiastic. After chatting with him for a while, he even made me feel guilty if I didn't invest in the West Hat Kingdom. President Rank laughed. Of course he would be enthusiastic about something that would benefit the West Hat Kingdom and himself. How was it? When he was talking with you earlier, did he? President Rank raised his eyebrows at Su-yi and gave him a meaningful glance, but didn't say it clearly. Su-yi smiled. He's the Sir Ambassador after all. How could he be so impatient? But I deeply felt the Sir Ambassador's enthusiasm and expectations, and gave him a sufficient response. President Rank snorted, but didn't ask how Su-yi had responded to Ambassador Palomas. He only nodded. I have to admit that although these people from the West Hat Kingdom are a bit greedy, as long as they are satisfied, they can still be very reliable. That's good, Su-yi praised. I'm afraid of those greedy fellows who don't have the ability. That is the worst thing. Are you thinking of the Principality of Constantine? President Rank looked at Su-yi. Su-yi gave a bitter laugh and shook his head before saying with a sigh, It's hard to explain in a few words. In short, as an old friend, I really hope that my peers from Bana City won't consider investing in the Principality of Constantine. It really is asking for trouble. President Rank patted Su-yi's shoulder with a smile. Let's not talk about the Principality of Constantine. Chairman Su, the matter of doing business in the Sack Kingdom that I mentioned to you last time, are you still interested? Su-yi looked up in surprise. Looking at President Rank's old face that was filled with wrinkles and red light, he suddenly had a thought. It can't be. Chapter 443. Su-yi quickly threw away his guesses. First, the Serene Chamber of Commerce had been established for close to 100 years. They had gone from a small company in Bana City to a first-class company in Bana City, even having a place in the Lampari Kingdom. This kind of company didn't need to risk betraying the Lampari Kingdom by selling new flyers' secrets to the Sack Kingdom. There were no benefits for them at all. Second, even if the Serene Chamber of Commerce had this idea, they didn't have the ability. Since the matter with Rem, the new flyers' protection of their technology had reached a very strict level. Without being tested, people who were truly trusted wouldn't be able to touch this information at all. Instead of believing that the Serene Chamber of Commerce could send spies into the new flyer to steal the information, it was better to believe that the core researchers of the new flyer had betrayed the new flyer. The number of people in the new flyer that could touch this research could be counted on a single hand. They were the Academy of Magic's chief, Evita, the special grade researcher Great Magician Camilla, the Magic Machine Development Center's manager Dwarf Camby, and Su-yi himself. Su-yi didn't believe that Evita, Great Magician Camilla, and Camby would betray the company. Then the Sack Kingdom being able to make a magic trebuchet. The biggest possibility was that they had obtained the information on the magic trebuchet from other channels and used it to imitate it. As for this channel, Su-yi didn't say it in front of Major Matt Conley, but he was actually suspecting the Northern Army and even the Army headquarters. Hey, Chairman Su, do you need to consider it for this long? Seeing that Su-yi had strangely fallen into deep thought after hearing his question, Chairman Rank couldn't help asking this in a confused voice. Oh, Su-yi reacted and said with a smile, Of course I'm interested, but Chairman Rank, I wonder if your business with the Sack Kingdom is safe? If we send a large batch of goods to the Sack Kingdom and they find an excuse to stop us, wouldn't we suffer a large loss? President Rank laughed and said, Don't worry, I haven't been doing this business for a day or two. Besides our Serene Chamber of Commerce, there are many other chambers of commerce in the kingdom that are doing this. We aren't the only one. Actually, the Sack Kingdom has a large demand for magic machines, so the people on the other side have asked me for this many times. If it wasn't inconvenient, the people on the other side would have personally contacted you. Oh, and I understand. So he nodded. He thought for a bit before saying, All right, give me some time to consider it. After I come back from Seoul City, I'll give you an answer. All right. Chairman Rank gave a slight nod before asking, "Speaking of this, your Frestac Chamber of Commerce investing in Soul City should be for Count Sean, right?" "Of course." Samo Count is the city lord of Soul City. He has always supported our new flyer. Now that he wants to develop Soul City, he needs our new flyer's investment, so of course I can't reject him. Chairman Rank was silent for a bit before asking, "Soul City isn't far from the Sack Kingdom, so if you're willing to trade with the Sack Kingdom, it's more convenient to go through Soul City." "Chairman Su, you could discuss this matter with Samo Count when you see him. I think that Sir Count will support this." "I will." After the initial discussion, he found that there was no meaning in staying at this banquet, so he found an excuse to leave. When he came back, he found that there were 2 medium-sized magic cars carrying the Beastmen girls of the New Moon Troop back. He had agreed to attend the banquet of the West Hack Kingdom's embassy tonight. He had also had Hannes arrange for the Beastmen girls to attend a banquet that Hannes had specially held. The goal was to let the New Moon Troop become famous among the nobles of Anvilmar City. However, based on the unhappy looks on the faces of the Beastmen girls, it seemed like this arrangement had failed. He looked at Hannes, who came out of the first medium-sized magic car, with a confused look. "What is going on?" Hannes had an awkward and ashamed look. He gave a sigh and shook his head before pointing at the door. "Let's go in first." After telling Manager Ram to bring the Beastmen girls to rest, Su-Yi and Hannes entered Su-Yi's private room. Seeing Su-Yi's doubtful look, Hannes gave a bitter laugh. "Su-Yi, sorry. I'm afraid I've messed up tonight." Su-Yi knit his brows. "What is going on? Why did you say you messed up?" "My original plan was to have the New Moon Troop perform at my banquet, singing and dancing to liven things up. I thought that with the dance and singing of these Beastmen girls, as well as their beautiful faces, they would definitely be welcomed by the nobles. And the result?" He was a bit surprised. "I don't believe that the nobles of the city don't like these Beastmen girls. They do like her, but they like her too much." Hannes smiled bitterly. Hannes said with a bitter smile, "After seeing the performance of the New Moon Troop, there were several nobles who directly asked me to sell these Beastmen girls to them." "Sell?" He was surprised. "They are treating these Beastmen girls as your slaves?" "That's right," Hannes said with a sigh. "You can't blame them for misunderstanding. After all, as long as Beastmen girls appear in our human world, they would only be slaves, and there was no other possibility. Moreover, these Beastmen girls were so young and beautiful, so they all thought that I had gotten a group of Beastmen slaves from somewhere." "And then? How did you respond?" He asked. "Of course I refused." Hannes immediately replied, "I told them that these Beastmen girls were members of the New Moon Troop and were not slaves. Their job was to perform and dance, so they were no different from the other troops in the city." "That explanation is very correct. Then how did you mess it up?" Hannes gave a cold snort, and a trace of anger appeared on his face. "These fellows are really hopeless. Although I explained it very clearly, they didn't care at all, and even tried to touch these Beastmen girls in front of me. In the end, they angered me, and I had a conflict with a few of the fiercest fellows. In the end, the banquet ended on a bad note, so naturally I messed it up." He looked at Hannes with a bit of helplessness. He thought to himself that Hannes could be considered a newspaper tycoon in the Lampari Kingdom. So how could he still be so hot-blooded and impulsive? However, in this matter, it couldn't be said that Hannes was wrong. Instead, he thought that Hannes had done a very good job. As a noble of Anvilmar City, Hannes actually had a conflict with other nobles because of Beastmen girls. This showed how much importance he placed on the matters Su-Yi gave him. Thinking of this, Su-Yi patted Hannes' shoulder and sincerely said, "It's been hard on you. If it wasn't for helping me, you wouldn't have had a conflict with those nobles. Those fellows are really outrageous. Even if it wasn't for you and those Beastmen girls, I still wouldn't be able to stand it." Seeing the righteous look on Hannes' face, Su-Yi laughed. After thinking about it, he said, "Speaking of this matter is also my fault. Based on what you just said, I overestimated the quality of the nobles in the city. In the end, I made the New Moon Troop go down the wrong path." "You mean that we aren't going down the high-end path?" Then how will the new moon troupe quickly integrate into Anvilmar City? Hannes asked in a surprised voice. Sui revealed a faint smile. We've actually overlooked a problem. The goal of establishing the new moon troupe is to change the impression the people of the kingdom have of beastmen. So it doesn't matter if the beastmen girls aren't accepted by the nobles, as long as they're accepted by the majority of the people. But on this point, we have a very large advantage. What advantage? Sui pointed at Hannes. That is you. Me? Hannes pointed at himself in a daze. His eyes turned, and he reacted, clapping his hands together. That's right, I have the Anvilmar Times and the Lampury Weekly under me, so I just need to advertise for them. I say, Sui, you must have thought of this from the beginning, so why didn't you let me advertise for them in the newspapers? Could it be that you weren't willing to spend the money? I've said it before, I overestimated the quality of the nobles in Anvilmar City. Sui gave a shrug. It's a good thing that it's not too late to change. Come, Hannes, I'll tell you what to do next. The first step will be the public service performance. Half an hour later, Sui stopped talking. Hannes stared at Sui in a daze for a while before slowly shaking his head. He said in a soft voice of praise, Sui, although I've experienced this many times, I still want to say, just how is your brain growing? Why do you have so many strange ideas? But these ideas are all very useful. This is called talent. You can't be jealous. Sui revealed a proud smile. How about it? Do you think this plan is feasible? Of course it's feasible. Hannes nodded. I even suspect that you didn't care about the new moon troupe at first. Otherwise you would have thought of such a great idea already. The new moon troupe is Steele's after all. How can I casually interfere with her work? Other than that, it's best if you help me hide this plan and say that it was your idea. I'm just throwing the new moon troupe to you. You'll do this, understand? Sui said. Hannes was stunned. Why? Because this is a work that Steele places great importance on, so I don't want her to know that I have too much of a use in it. This will affect her enthusiasm and confidence, so I don't want that to happen. Hannes looked at Sui with wide eyes for a while before he couldn't help shaking his head and saying with a sigh, Steele is really lucky to have you as her husband. If I was a girl, perhaps I would also fall in love with you. Sui rolled his eyes, scram, damn gay. Chapter 444. The Sorcerer's Guild certification exam had lasted for an entire 10 days before all the magicians of the 5th grade and below were certified. According to the statistics of the Sorcerer's Guild, in these 10 days, there were over 7,000 magicians of the 5th grade and below who passed the certification exam. Of these 7,000 magicians, most of them were primary grade and 2nd grade magicians, totaling close to 5,000. The remaining 2,000 magicians were 3rd grade and 5th grade magicians. With Sui's standards, magicians that wanted to enter the Magic Research Institute of New Flying Chamber of Commerce had to be at least 3rd grade magicians. Otherwise, they wouldn't understand the basics of magic at all. So naturally, they wouldn't be able to research the magic arrays required for the magic machines. But primary grade and 2nd grade magicians were still qualified to complete the most basic work of arranging magic arrays. If they entered the new flyer, they could be in charge of the core magic arrays of the magic machines in the large factories. Their wages were much higher than normal workers, so it was more important. So in these 10 days, Sui had Hannes place large advertisements in the Anvilmar Times, recruiting all the magicians in the city. The results were very good. In these 10 days, there were over 1,000 magicians who came to the new flyer to join the new flyer. For these magicians who were interested, the new flyer would organize a group every 2 days. They would take the First and Carriage Company's media magic cars between Banta City and Anvilmar City, heading to the new flyer in Banta City's Falling Rain Valley for a field trip. Based on the current situation, there were over 500 magicians who had signed employment contracts with a new flyer as soon as they finished visiting the Falling Rain Valley, officially becoming employees of the new flyer. The only regret was that there weren't many magicians who could obtain Evita's approval to enter the Academy of Magic. There were only 24 of them. But even if it was just an increase of 24, It was enough to greatly increase the strength of the Magic Research Institute of New Flying Chamber of Commerce. This made Evita and Akali very happy. Akali even announced that when she returned to the Chamber of Commerce, she would choose a few more assistants from the newly recruited magicians and would not allow anyone to compete with her. If you don't allow others to snatch it, you'd better go back as soon as possible. Otherwise, do you believe that the other research groups would have already snatched up all the new researchers? Su-yi said with a smile to Akali, who was waving her small fists and looking like she would fight anyone who dared to snatch it. How dare they? Akali wrinkled her nose and glanced at Su-yi. She rolled her eyes and giggled as she hugged Su-yi's arm. Of course, compared to that, it's more important to personally see you take the test. That's right, Sir President. Do you have the confidence to pass the 9th rank magician test? I remember that I'm only taking the test of the 8th rank. Moreover, before I take the test, how can I say I have the confidence? Su-yi shrugged and pulled his arm out. He looked at Evita on the other side. So you're saying that you're all waiting for my test results to come out before leaving? Yes. Evita lightly nodded. You're our president. Since you're also taking the test, everyone wants to receive your good news before leaving. You're making me feel a lot of pressure, Su-yi said with a smile. What if I mess up and don't even pass the test of the 8th rank? Wouldn't I lose a lot of face? Pay, Sir President, can you not jinx it? Akali hurriedly stopped Su-yi. She composed herself, and with a serious expression, she put on an impassioned expression and loudly said, I can guarantee that you'll definitely pass the test of the 9th rank. Do you have the confidence? Seeing her like this, Su-yi couldn't help but laugh. Then he cooperatively high-fived her and loudly said, Very confident. Good, then go. Su-yi gave a salute to Akali. Officer Akali, this subordinate will head to the test site now. Evita broke out in laughter, and Akali couldn't hold back her laughter as she couldn't help breaking out in laughter. Su-yi laughed and turned to enter the test site with the surrounding magicians who were curiously looking at the three of them. It was different from when Su-yi participated in the Sorcerers Guild's certification exam 2 years ago. The magicians who participated in the high-level magician exam 2 years ago, including Su-yi, only numbered around 100. However, when Su-yi entered the test site this time, he found that the test site was filled with people. There were high-level magicians wearing the purple robes of low-level magicians everywhere. Moreover, although Su-yi didn't participate last year, he had heard from great magician Camilla that only President Aaron was responsible for the high-level magician exam last year. However, this year was the same as the year before. All 5 great magicians of the Lampari Kingdom were present. Su-yi looked at President Aaron sitting in the center. He thought that according to the agreement of the 5 great magicians, 1 great magician should be responsible for the exam, but because there were a lot more magicians participating this year, they were forced to have all 5 great magicians. Looking at it like this, didn't President Aaron suffer a loss last year? Perhaps he could feel the strange look in Su-yi's eyes, but President Aaron turned to look at Su-yi. He nodded at him with a smile, looking at him with a friendly gaze. Su-yi nodded back with a faint smile, but he was thinking about something that Kennard had told him last time. President Aaron had opened a magic machine company in the name of his son, Ankh Aaron, outside Amblemar City, and obtained a cooperation with New Flyer through President Aaron. This wasn't a problem at all, but the quality and performance of the magic fans produced by this magic machine company were only slightly worse than the Shinfei brand magic fans. It far surpassed the magic fans produced by the other companies in the kingdom. New Flyer had cooperated with many companies, but only their magic machine company's magic fans had such outstanding performance and quality. It couldn't help but arouse the suspicion of Kennard and vigilance of Su-yi. Alex's figure flashed in his mind, and Su-yi slightly knit his brows as he gave an emotional sigh in his heart. It was a good thing that Alex had come looking for him yesterday, saying that he was willing to return to Banna City and change jobs at the New Flyer headquarters. Otherwise, if he kept doing what he did before, Su-yi really didn't know how to deal with him in order to face Hines. After a while, it was time for the official exam. When the staff announced the start of the exam, Su Yi went in front of great magician Taluchi, who was in charge of the 8th grade exam. Although there were over 1,000 people participating in the high grade exam, there were only 30 people who were qualified to participate in the 8th grade exam. Su Yi was a bit different among them. 1. He was only 30 years old this year, so he was too bright compared to the white-haired old magicians around him. 2. He didn't have the characteristics of a magician at all. He didn't even have the magic robe that he wore when participating in the Sorcerer's Guild's certification exam. But Su Yi wasn't just famous among the merchants of the Lampari Kingdom. He was also famous among the magicians. 3 years ago, when Su Yi participated in the Sorcerer's Guild's certification exam for the first time, he passed the 5th grade exam, creating a stir in the entire Lampari Kingdom. And when Su Yi participated in the exam 2 years ago, he directly passed the 7th grade exam. This kind of shocking increase in magic power shocked all the magicians in the kingdom. Although Su Yi didn't participate last year, since he was here this year, all the magicians who knew him were certain that he had the confidence to pass the 8th grade exam, otherwise he wouldn't have participated. So even if Su Yi was a bit different among the magicians, it didn't stop all the magicians from giving him a kind smile. Even if it wasn't because of Su Yi's strength, or because of great magician Camilla's face, just based on Su Yi's status as the chairman of a new flyer, he could only receive smiles from the other magicians. It had to be known that there was a large piece of news in the Anvil Times a few days ago. It was that great magician Camilla's salary in the new flyer had reached a shocking 10,000 gold coins a year. Although great magician Camilla was the grandfather of Su Yi's wife, and with this relationship, this salary was just a gimmick. The salary of the magicians of the Magic Research Institute of New Flying Chamber of Commerce was not fake at all. According to the report in the Anvil Times, the junior researchers of the Magic Research Institute of New Flying Chamber of Commerce could receive 25 gold coins a month. As for the chief Evita, her salary had already reached 80 gold coins a month. Adding in the bonus, Evita's income was close to 2,000 gold coins a year. Thinking about it, the Lampari Kingdom only gave a great magician 2,000 gold coins a year, and Evita was only a 5th grade magician. She could receive close to 2,000 gold coins a year in the new flyer. Then what if it was a higher level magician? Faced with the friendly smiles of the surrounding magicians, Su Yi also returned a friendly smile. Although he had already recruited over 500 low-level magicians a few days ago, Su Yi had always placed importance on research, so he placed more importance on these high-level magicians of the 6th grade and above. These high-grade magicians naturally had a better understanding of magic than low-grade magicians. If they could recruit more of them into the Frestac Chamber of Commerce's magic research facility, it would definitely have a large effect on the Frestac Chamber of Commerce's magic machine research. The new flyer had countless magic machines to research in the future. Su Yi felt that even if he recruited all the magicians of the Lampari Kingdom into the company, it wouldn't be enough. Since this was a two-way choice, everyone had this mentality, and the scene was very harmonious. However, at this time, there was a cold snort that came from the crowd. This fellow is clearly not a magician. Why is he here? Is the Lampari Kingdom Sorcerers Guild this careless? Chapter 445. Everyone looked in the direction of the voice in shock. They found that the rude guy was a short and small magician with half of his hair white. He looked extremely skinny. Great magician Taluchi, who was in charge of the 8th grade exam, knit his brows. He looked down at the report in his hand and said in a deep voice, "Are you Bucares from the Mirando Duchy? You don't know Su Yi, so I don't blame you for doubting him. But you're actually questioning the attitude of our Lampari Kingdom Sorcerers Guild? Who gave you the courage?" The thin magician named Bucares slightly raised his head and gave a cold snort. "What? Your Lampari Kingdom Sorcerers Guild won't even let people speak the truth? This kid doesn't look like a magician at all. So why is he standing here? This is simply an insult to us magicians who are also taking the exam." The several dozen magicians present all looked at each other before rolling their eyes. They all felt this was a bit funny. "Hey, didn't great magician Taluchi just say that it isn't your fault that you don't know Su Yi? But now that great magician Talachi has said Su Yi's name, you're still saying this. I think you're insulting our Lampari Kingdom's Sorcerers Guild, right? You don't even know Su Yi and you're not embarrassed to speak nonsense here. You really don't know how high the heavens are. You're looking down on Su Yi? Don't look at how young he is. He is a genius. You're much older than him, so your magic power might not be as high as his. That's right. Even I can't guarantee that I'm stronger than Su Yi. Where do you get the confidence to mock him? This is simply too funny. The surrounding magicians all spoke one after another, making Bucare's face turn green and white. He couldn't say anything for a while. From the reactions of great magician Talachi and the surrounding people, he knew that he had said something wrong. This kid who didn't look like a magician seemed to be a famous person in the Lampari Kingdom, and was even a famous magic genius. He had clearly made a mistake, but to admit his mistake in front of all these people and apologize to Su Yi, he couldn't do it at all. Although he wanted to turn around and leave, it wasn't easy for him to participate in the Sorcerers Guild's certification exam. If he left like this, he would be wasting this opportunity. Even if he was a 7th grade magician, it wasn't easy for him to come to Anvilmar City from the Mirando Duchy, so he couldn't waste this opportunity. Seeing that Bucares was embarrassed by everyone and had an ugly look on his face, Su Yi as the person involved couldn't take it. With a smile, he walked to Bucare's side and reached his hand out. Hello, Magician Bucares. Please allow me to introduce myself. My name is Su Yi. I'm a magician, but I'm also the chairman of the New Flyer, so you weren't wrong. I don't look like a magician because I care more about my identity as a merchant. Great magician Talachi couldn't help slightly knitting his brows. Su Yi publicly admitted in front of a group of magicians that compared to his identity as a magician, he cared more about his identity as a merchant. This would have a negative effect on the Magicians Guild. But Su Yi had already said this, and in the hearts of most of the Lampari Kingdom's magicians, they recognized Su Yi as the chairman of the New Flyer, so they endured it and didn't point it out. The chairman of the New Flyer? Bucares looked up in surprise and saw the sincere smile on Su Yi's face. The prejudice he had towards Su Yi disappeared, and he even had a good impression of him. You're able to participate in the 8th level magician certification exam at such a young age. Your magic talent must be very strong. Why are you the chairman of a company? That's right, you said the New Flyer? I seem to have heard of this company before. Su Yi shrugged and said with a smile, You're not the first person to say this to me. But in truth, compared to studying magic, I prefer studying magic machines, so my main identity is still a merchant. Magic machines? New Flyer? Bucares knit his brows and thought for a bit before his eyes suddenly lit up. I remember now, the New Flyer you're talking about is a company that produces magic machines, right? This thing seems to be very popular in your Lampari Kingdom and is often mentioned in our Mirando Duchy. I remember, I saw a few magic machines in the Duke's house last time. Since you know this, then you should know what I do. Su Yi nodded with a smile. Magician Bucares, what do the people of your Mirando Duchy think of the magic machines produced by our company? Bucares shook his head. Although the level of magic in these things doesn't seem that great to me, the people of our duchy think that they're very useful and are very popular. It's just that our Mirando Duchy is very poor and most people can't afford these things. A trace of sadness flashed past Bucares' eyes as he said this. Su Yi only paid attention to the other sentence that came out of his mouth. You think the level of magic contained in the magic machines produced by our company isn't that great? Bucares stared blankly for a moment before realizing that he had said something wrong. He waved his hands and said, No, I didn't mean anything else. I just think that the level of magic displayed in these magic machines is relatively simple. They're all very basic magic applications. I didn't mean to belittle the magic machines themselves. Don't misunderstand. Another magician from the Lampari Kingdom snorted. You still dare to look down on New Flyer's magic machines? Let me tell you, even if there are so many magicians in our Lampari Kingdom, there aren't many who can fully understand them. Just based on you? Bucares was obviously someone who couldn't stand being provoked. Hearing this sarcasm, He immediately straightened his neck and said angrily, "What? I just think that the level of magic on those magic machines isn't that great. If you can't understand it, then it's because your level isn't that great." Hearing this, Sui couldn't help but let out a long sigh. Sure enough, Bucare's words were equivalent to sweeping all the magicians of the Lampari kingdom into the mud and angering everyone. The surrounding Lampari kingdom magicians all began taunting Bucares. "You're saying we can't do it? Then why don't you try it if you have the skills? I want to talk about the complicated magic machines in New Flyer. I'll just take out a magic refrigerator. If you can understand what's inside and make your own, it'll be considered your skills." That's right. Looking at your poor appearance, I can tell that you haven't touched New Flyer's magic machines many times. You still dare to say that it's simple? Che, you sound like you're very powerful, but do you really dare to study New Flyer's magic machines? If it was that easy to understand, how could the other companies in our Lampari kingdom be begging New Flyer to transfer their technology? Let me tell you, if you can understand the technology in New Flyer's magic machines, there will be a large group of companies that will want you. If you're that powerful, do you believe that you can earn tens of thousands of gold coins a year without a problem? What tens of thousands? It'll be at least several 100,000. Once again, Bucharest was stunned by what the crowd was saying. Judging from the reaction of the crowd, which was even more intense than before, he seemed to have gotten something wrong again. But with his stubborn personality, naturally he wouldn't admit defeat, so he loudly rebuked everyone. Seeing that everyone's quarrel had attracted the attention of the other area's magicians, Great Magician Taluchi knit his brows. He circulated the magic in his body, and a cold wind blew through the exam area, instantly making everyone feel a chill run down their spines. Everyone was hit by the chill and immediately calmed down. After looking at each other, they remembered that they were in the exam site. Everyone quickly restrained the anger in their hearts and obediently lined up in front of Great Magician Taluchi. It had to be said that these magicians were all famous people in their own cities, but when they came to the Sorcerer's Guild in front of Great Magician Taluchi, they could only be careful, not daring to show any arrogance. Seeing everyone calm down, Great Magician Taluchi gave a cold snort. He looked at Sui before announcing the start of the exam. It was different from before the exam. The process of the exam itself was very calm. The people participating in the exam were all high-level magicians and had been studying magic for several decades. Naturally, they could tell what level of magic another magician was using with a single glance. With Great Magician Taluchi here, it was even easier to judge. Often, after a magician used a few spells, they would be able to judge the other party's level of magic and determine if they could pass the 8th level exam. Very soon, the first dozen magicians finished their exam, and when it was Sui's turn, everyone's eyes fell onto Sui. In the entire exam site, Sui could be said to be the magician that received the most attention. It was because of his age and also because of his status. Think about it. If Sui passed the 8th level exam, that would mean that he had become an 8th level magician at the age of 30. Even if it was placed on the entire Signs continent, this was a shocking result. It had to be known that there were less than 10 8th level magicians on the continent that were as young as Sui. Not to mention that Sui had an even more important identity. He was the chairman of a New Flyer. The New Flyer had developed so quickly in the past few years. So, Sui, as the chairman, would have to spend most of his time managing the New Flyer. Naturally, he wouldn't have much time to study magic. However, even in this situation, Sui's magic was still growing so quickly. If he could focus on studying magic, then with his shocking talent for magic and the financial support he didn't need to worry about, his magic strength would increase even faster. In the history of the Signs, the youngest person to become a great magician was 37 years old. With Sui's current situation, he might even break that record. All right, Sui, begin displaying the 8th level spells you've already grasped. You need to succeed at least 3 times, otherwise I'll declare you unable to pass the exam. Great Magician Taluchi had a professional appearance as he spoke to Sui with an expressionless face. Sui nodded and walked to the center of the exam site. Under everyone's gaze, He raised his right hand, and arcs of lightning appeared in his right palm. Chapter 446. As a magician of the 8th rank, grasping high-level spells of the various elements was a basic requirement. Because he was researching magic machines, he was most proficient in wind magic. So what he was showing Great Magician Talachi was a high-level wind magic, lightning magic. The essence of lightning magic was its speed. Not only was the magic itself as fast as lightning, but it was also the casting speed. To pass the test of the 8th rank, one had to be able to smoothly cast the 8th rank spell Colorful Star without any hindrance. In front of everyone, not only did Su-Yi successfully use the Chain Lightning, the Thunder Explosion spell, and the Electric Net Purgatory, these 3 8th grade lightning spells, his casting speed was incomparably fast, not stopping at all. Seeing him display these 3 spells, the surrounding magicians were both shocked and relieved. They were shocked because Su-Yi had really grasped the 8th rank of lightning magic so well, and relieved because Su-Yi really did have the strength of an 8th rank magician, just as everyone had guessed. Only Bucharest looked at Su-Yi in a daze, not relieved, only shocked. This young kid who didn't look like a magician at all actually had the strength of an 8th rank magician. And he, Bucharest, was already 52 years old, but he still didn't have the confidence to pass the test of the 8th rank. Compared to Su-Yi, at his age, he was simply living like a dog. Thinking of this, Bucharest let out a sigh and quietly left the crowd, preparing to leave on his own while no one was paying attention to him. Su-Yi had already noticed him, and seeing his movements, he quickly called out to stop him. Hearing Su-Yi shout, the other magicians also noticed Bucharest's movements and immediately understood what he was thinking. Thinking of what Bucharest had just said, the other magicians mercilessly mocked him again. Bucharest was disheartened at this time, but he wasn't in the mood to refute them. He only looked at Su-Yi, shook his head, and prepared to leave without a care. Su-Yi grabbed him. "Mage Bucharest, it's rare for you to come here. If you go back just like that, wouldn't you be wasting the opportunity?" Su-Yi said. Bucharest looked at the sincere expression on Su-Yi's face and wondered if this fellow's acting skills had become so good because he had been a businessman for so long. Didn't he know that the reason why she had suffered such a blow today was because of him? It's embarrassing to stay here. Let's just waste the opportunity. Bucharest shook his head and swung his arms, trying to break free from Su-Yi. Su-Yi firmly grabbed his arm and didn't let go. He even took a step closer and whispered in his ear, "It doesn't matter if you waste your own opportunity, but do you want to waste the opportunity of the Mirando Duchy as well?" Bucharest looked at Su-Yi in shock. Su-Yi smiled faintly. "After the assessment, I want to talk to you alone. I'm still very interested in the Mirando Duchy. If possible, perhaps our Chamber of Commerce and the Mirando Duchy can work together and change the lives of all the citizens of the Mirando Duchy." Bucharest frowned and looked at Su-Yi for a while. He really couldn't see any pretense on his face. After hesitating for a moment, he turned around. Seeing that he had changed his mind, Su-Yi smiled and let go of his arm. Su-Yi and Bucharest's conversation was extremely quiet, and Su-Yi could even use wind magic to soundproof it. The surrounding magicians naturally didn't know what they were talking about. They only saw that after Su-Yi said a few words, Bucharest actually changed his mind and decided to continue with the assessment. They couldn't help but click their tongues in wonder. Because Su-Yi had come forward to persuade Bucharest to stay, the other magicians couldn't continue to mock and ridicule him. Thus, the rest of the assessment went on smoothly. Half an hour later, everyone's assessment ended. Bucharest wasn't very proficient in the 3/8 level spells he used during the assessment and received a very reluctant evaluation from Great Magician Talachi. However, he still passed the assessment in the end. This immediately made Bucharest's mood much better. It was to the point that when he talked to Su-Yi in private, a happy smile appeared on his face for the first time. "Chairman Su, I just had a conversation with some magicians and have some understanding of your new flyer. I must apologize to you for underestimating you and the new flyer before," Bucharest said sincerely. He was a bit surprised and quickly waved his hand. It's not a big deal. Don't take it to heart. Bucharest nodded and then asked, but Chairman Sue, from the other people's introduction, your new flyer might really have the ability to change the lives of our Mirando Duchy citizens. However, I have a question. Since you are a merchant, then you must want to obtain some benefits from our Mirando Duchy, right? But our duchy is very small and doesn't have anything special. What benefits can you obtain from us? He lightly shook his head. Every person and place has their own unique value. It's just that no one has discovered it yet. The Mirando Duchy might not have any value in the eyes of many people, but I know that there's a very unique and precious resource in the Mirando Duchy. Is that so? Bucharest looked at with a puzzled expression. I've lived in Mirando Duchy for 50 years. How come I've never heard of such a thing? That's because no one has discovered it before. Smiled. But from the various samples brought back by the caravan that I commissioned to go to the Mirando Duchy, I discovered this precious resource. That's why I had the idea of cooperating with the Mirando Duchy. It's just that there hasn't been a suitable opportunity before, but now that Mage Bucharest has appeared, it's as if the heavens have given me this opportunity. What do you mean? Bucharest frowned. I'm not the Grand Duke, and I can't decide anything in the Mirando Duchy. There's no use for you to look for me. If you want to cooperate with the Mirando Duchy, you should go directly to the Grand Duke. I think the Grand Duke would welcome you and the new flyer very much. That's true, but it's also very important to have a suitable entry point. Mage Bucharest, as the best mage in the Mirando Duchy, you are the most suitable entry point. I still don't understand what you're talking about. I don't know anything about business. Bucharest shook his head. But if you want to contact the Grand Duke of our duchy through me, then I'll be happy to help. That's enough. Paused, then pointed at Bucharest and said, apart from this kind of rare resource, Mage Bucharest, you are also a rare and precious resource. Bucharest frowned, somewhat unhappy. Chairman I don't like this kind of joke. Laughed. All right, I won't joke around. Mage Bucharest, as the president of the New Flyer, I represent the New Flyer to sincerely invite you to work for our Magic Research Institute of New Flying Chamber of Commerce. Would you be willing to accept? Bucharest looked at in shock. Didn't you just say that the magic machines our New Flyer produces don't represent much in terms of magic? Then I feel that with your strength as an 8th level mage, you must have some other information. So I hope to invite you to our Chamber of Commerce to assist our Academy of Magic in researching magic machines. Bucharest's old face reddened. Chairman are you still holding a grudge? No. This is a sincere invitation. He hurriedly shook his head. A powerful mage like you is the goal our Chamber of Commerce will always need. If you don't believe me, I can sign a contract with you right now. Bucharest looked at suspiciously. After thinking for a bit, he asked hesitantly that, I heard that the mages of your Magic Research Institute of New Flying Chamber of Commerce have very high salaries. Smiled slightly. If you choose to work for our Chamber of Commerce, I think that with your strength, you will quickly become a senior researcher. Then, your monthly salary will be at least 50 gold coins. 50 gold coins! Bucharest's eyes suddenly widened. After taking a deep breath, he thought for a moment and slowly nodded. All right, I will seriously consider it. Seeing Bucharest leave with his head lowered in thought, a smile appeared on Suyi's face. Based on Bucharest's reaction, he must have been moved by the 50 gold coins monthly salary. If he really decided to join the New Flyer, he would naturally be very happy. Of the researchers in the Frestac Chamber of Commerce's magic research facility, other than Great Magician Camilla, who is a great magician, the strongest researchers were only 7th grade magicians. Most of them were 4th or 5th grade magicians like Evita and Akali. Between them and Great Magician Camilla, there was a large gap. This made it very hard for the Academy of Magic to do research. When it came to high-level magic array research, it could only be done by Great Magician Camilla. No matter how strong his magic was, he had limited time and energy, so he couldn't do many research tasks at once. Now that new flyer was researching large-scale and heavy-duty magic machines, it would often involve high-level magic array research. Therefore, the Academy of Magic's research power was a bit weak. If Bucharest joined the Academy of Magic, there was no doubt that it would fill this gap. The more important thing was that Bucharest could be used as a symbol to attract other high-level magicians like him who were close to great magicians to join the new flyer. Thinking of how he had talked to several high-level magicians in the exam room, asking them to join the new flyer, only to be rejected. But Bucharest was clearly moved, so he couldn't help feeling emotional. Just how poor was the Mirando Duchy that even an 8th-level magician like Bucharest would be moved by the salary of 50 gold coins a month. If the Mirando Duchy knew the value of the rare resource in their hands, they wouldn't have fallen into such a poor situation. This was because this extremely precious resource was very rare even on Earth and was called rare earth. Chapter 447. There was a motorcade of over 20 transport magic cars and a medium-sized magic passenger car that was quickly moving along the road of the Lampari Kingdom's northeast province. Because they were moving faster than horse carriages, the motorcade couldn't help shaking when they passed by bumps on the road. Pong! When they passed by a deep hole, the small medium-sized magic passenger car and the motorcade shook, causing the passengers inside to jump out of their seats. He fell into his seat. Even if the soft seats of the medium-sized magic passenger car offset most of the impact, his butt still hurt from the shock, and he couldn't help knitting his brows. This road really is too bad. Camby, who was sitting beside Sue, he had the strong body of a dwarf, but he couldn't help complaining. This kind of road is also worthy of being called a road? That's right, it's much worse than the roads in Urbana City. The Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce really cut corners when building this road. I wonder who's the one who's taking over this road. The road is this bad, I think that they should be responsible for it. It might not be related to the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce that much. How could it not be related? This road was built by the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce. The people who built this road couldn't have the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce build it like this, right? That might not be the case. The other researchers of the new Flyer Magic Machine Development Center who came with Camby all rubbed their butts as they complained. Hearing their complaints, He opened the window and poked his head out. Looking over the road in front of them, He deeply knit his brows. It was fine if it was just 1 or 2 roads that were bad, since the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce's road technology couldn't compare to the roads on Earth, so the quality of the road couldn't compare to the roads on Earth. But in Su Yi's eyes, the road was filled with potholes. Other than the cement on the surface that showed that it was a road, it was even worse than the old roads that could be seen all over the Lampari Kingdom. Su Yi's eyes naturally turned to the road, and after looking over it, he couldn't help giving a cold snort. The cement on this road wasn't even 10 centimeters thick. It was no wonder it became this bad in such a short period of time. This was also because the main roads in the Lampari Kingdom were horse carriages, so they couldn't carry more than a ton of goods. If it were those large trucks in the area that could easily carry dozens or even hundreds of tons of goods, the cement road would be crushed into pieces in a matter of minutes. After cursing in his heart, he pulled back his head and closed the window to prevent the cold from blowing in. Then he looked down at the map in his hand, and after looking around, he pointed at a place marked on the map. "We should be here now, right?" He pointed at the map as he said this. Camby looked over. That's right, we should be in Lamart City soon. Lamart City. He thought for a bit before slightly knitting his brows. According to the information he collected ahead of time, Lamart City's city lord came from the Wolf family, and the Wolf family was a firm conservative faction in the Lampari Kingdom. They had already declared their support for His Highness Eric, and their attitude towards a new flyer wasn't good. When a new flyer wanted to expand and build production bases in the various cities of the Lampari Kingdom, they had taken the initiative to invest in Lamart City, but they had been firmly rejected by the Lamart City city lord. I wonder if the condition of this road is related to this. He muttered before turning to Camby. Camby, remember this. When we get back, We need to properly study the shock absorption system of the magic car. We can't expect all the roads on the continent to be as smooth as the falling rain road. So the magic cars we produce have to be able to adapt to all the roads. Shock absorption system? Camby was startled. Camby was surprised. How do we do this? It's very troublesome to talk about it. So I'll first study it with the Academy of Magic when we get back. Our initial plan is to use wind magic to cushion the car, reducing the impact and vibration from the uneven road. As for how to do it, we'll have to study it when we get back. Cushioning the entire car? Camby frowned. Camby knitted his brows. Then to create a buffer for the wind magic, how do we connect the car to the ground? Do you still remember the suspension structure I mentioned to you before? Sue, he reminded him. Although the medium-sized magic car we're riding in already uses this technology after driving on this road, I feel that it's far from enough. Since there's something as convenient as wind magic, of course we should use it. Using wind magic as a buffer, the effect is much better than using a hard spring. But as for the specific structure, Camby was silent for a bit before discussing it with the researchers of the Magic Machine Development Center beside him. These researchers weren't all dwarves. There were also some human researchers who were talented in mechanical engineering. When they heard Sue mention the shock absorption system, they excitedly proposed their own ideas. For a while, the car was filled with heated discussion. Hearing the heated discussion between Camby and the researchers, Sue revealed a smile. He didn't participate and looked back at the map in his hand. This map of the Lampari Kingdom was similar to the map hanging in his study in the Falling Star Manor, but there were also parts of it that were painted in red. The places that were painted in red meant that in the corresponding cities, the companies related to the magic machine industry had already infiltrated. In the area of Bana City, there were naturally a bunch of red dots that dyed almost all of Bana City red. Outside Bana City, Karma City, Saltan City, Norton City, Canberra City, Kramer City, Anvilmar City, and other cities that were several hundred kilometers away from Bana City were also dyed red. This meant that New Flyer and the other companies related to the magic machine industry had already infiltrated these cities. Other than these cities that were currently being developed, there were many other cities in the Lampari Kingdom that Sue had painted a small red circle. This meant that New Flyer and the other companies related to the magic machine industry were planning to invest in these cities, bringing these cities under the influence of the magic machine industry. However, on this map, there were large areas that remained the same and weren't dyed red at all. Lamart City was one of them. Seeing these areas that didn't seem to be affected at all, Sue deeply knit his brows. These places weren't affected by the magic machine industry that was currently developing in the Lampari Kingdom, because these places were in the sphere of influence that supported His Highness Eric. The reason why they supported the magic machine industry was to show their opposition to Her Highness 70 by boycotting the magic machine industry, indirectly supporting His Highness Eric. This was just a political reason, and there were no other factors. Sue hated this situation very much, but he was also very helpless. Political factors weren't something that he could control right now, so for now, he could only passively watch. His Majesty the King, who played a decisive role in this, seemed to have suddenly disappeared without a trace during this period of time. He did not make any sound, nor did he give any instructions. What Sue couldn't understand the most was that even when His Highness Eric was organizing the Northern Army to attack the Sack Kingdom, His Majesty actually didn't say anything. Although Major Matt Conley explained that this was because when the two princes and Her Highness 70 were the city lords of the three cities, he promised that he wouldn't interfere in any of their decisions. But for an important matter like attacking the Sack Kingdom that was related to the entire Lampuri Kingdom, he still didn't say a word, which was very strange. Even if Sue didn't know anything about military matters, when the Northern Army faced the Sack Kingdom's attacks before, they were only barely able to defend. The reason why they could attack the Muerto Mountains at the beginning of this year was because of the support of large amounts of new equipment. Now that His Highness Eric refused to purchase the military magic machines from New Flyer, the Northern Army's battle strength wouldn't be much higher than before, so how could they succeed in attacking the Sack Kingdom? Sue didn't believe that His Majesty couldn't see this, But His Majesty didn't say anything about His Highness Eric's actions at all, which really was puzzling. His Majesty wouldn't be planning on watching His Highness Eric die, right? So he was scared by the terrifying thoughts that appeared in his mind and quickly shook his head. This idea was too absurd. Even if His Majesty was heartless to His Highness Eric, at least the Northern Army was innocent. His Majesty couldn't let the Northern Army be buried with His Highness Eric, right? Perhaps His Highness Eric has other plans? His Majesty is also aware of this, so he doesn't say anything? He had just given a reasonable explanation in his mind when the carriage suddenly trembled and stopped. What is it? He looked forward in surprise and found that the entire motorcade had stopped. After a while, there were sounds of arguing in front of them. He could hear that one of the voices belonged to Encado, who was in charge of leading the way, so he couldn't help slightly knitting his brows. After a while, a Frestec Chamber of Commerce staff member in charge of transporting goods ran over while panting. Seeing E poking his head out the window to check the situation, he angrily said, "Sir Chairman, the road ahead is sealed." Chapter 448. Sealed off. He was stunned as he looked ahead. After thinking for a while, he got out of the car. He walked in front of the convoy and saw that there was a wooden fence in the middle of the road that acted as a roadblock, blocking the convoy. He looked into the distance and saw that there was no construction in front of the road. He could see several carriages running on the road, and the pedestrians were not affected at all. From the looks of it, they were the only ones who were blocked outside. Behind the roadblock stood more than 10 soldiers in uniform armor. From the insignia on their chests, they were not the kingdom's army, but the local city guards of Lamart City. At this moment, the one who was arguing with Encado was a soldier who looked like the leader. "Ancto, what is going on?" He stopped Ancto, whose neck was red and whose face was filled with rage, and asked him this. "President, these guys didn't stop anyone but our convoy. I think they are deliberately making things difficult for us." Encado pointed at the soldiers and said angrily, "Just now, I clearly saw them let the carriages pass, but after our convoy arrived, they put up the roadblock again. Hey, didn't I tell you just now?" The leader pointed at the road behind them. "This road is being repaired, so we can't let your heavy carriages pass. Don't you understand? But I clearly saw a large cargo carriage in front of us that you let pass. They can't carry less cargo than us, right?" Encado was not convinced. "How do you know they are heavier than you?" The leader glared at Encado and turned to Sue. "Hey, you're the president? Let me tell you, this road is sealed off. You should take a detour. You should be more polite to our president. Let me tell you, the president is..." He raised his arm and stopped Encado from continuing. After thinking for a bit, he came in front of the leader and said with a faint smile, "This officer, can I have a word with you?" The leader looked over E before laughing. He waved his hand at E and walked to a large tree on the side of the road. E followed behind him and came to a place behind the tree that blocked everyone's line of sight. Without another word, he took out a small purse from his chest and handed it over. "Officer, can you tell me what is going on with the road being sealed off?" The team leader didn't stand on ceremony. He directly took the purse and weighed it in his hand. Based on his experience, he quickly judged that there were at least 20 gold coins in the purse. The serious expression on his face immediately faded, and he beamed with joy. "Hey, to be honest, I don't know what is going on." The leader explained with a smile. "Anyway, the Lord City Lord gave a strict order a week ago that no magic cars were allowed to pass on this road. Before you, I've already stopped the magic cars of several companies." After saying this, the leader turned to look at the motorcade on the road and asked in a curious voice, "Speaking of this, which company are you from? This is my first time seeing a company with this many magic cars." "It's just a small company. Officer, you definitely haven't heard of it." He vaguely replied before asking, "Officer, is there a possibility of making an exception? We've already come this far. If we turn back, it would be a waste of time. Moreover, we can't find a place to rest for a while, right?" While saying this, he took out another purse from his chest. Seeing this purse that was clearly bigger than the previous one, the leader couldn't help swallowing a mouthful of saliva. After struggling for a bit, he shook his head. No, the Lord City Lord gave a strict order this time. If I let you pass, I might be thrown into jail by the Lord City Lord when I go back. Seeing the firm attitude of the leader, Sui knew that there was no room for negotiation this time. After thinking about it, he nodded and looked into the distance before turning back to the motorcade. Sir Chairman, how is it? Enkato came over and asked in a low voice. Sui shook his head. Turn around, we'll go another way. Enkato immediately knit his brows. Turn around now? But Sir Chairman, there's only this road near Lamart City. It's not like we can't go on it. Then again, how much better is this road compared to the normal dirt roads? Sui asked back. Enkato looked at the bumpy road under his feet and gave a cold laugh. Then he looked at the soldiers behind the barricades on the road before turning to get in the car. Seeing the first transport magic car that Enkato personally drove turn around on this broken road, Sui returned to the medium-sized magic car in the middle of the motorcade. After explaining to Camby and the others, they were all confused. It's fine to talk about repairing the road. This road is this broken. It should be repaired. But why is it only limited to magic cars? Camby knit his brows. Could it be that this is aimed at our new flyer? Sui looked at the horizon in the distance and found that he couldn't even see the city walls of Lamart City. He shook his head and said, I don't know. Perhaps there is this reason, but that isn't important. After all, this isn't Banda City. I'm too lazy to waste time talking to Lamart City's city lord. Moreover, I just said to Enkato that taking this road isn't much different from taking a normal dirt road, right? Everyone in the car broke out in laughter. That's right, this broken road can't even compare to some old dirt roads. Che, our village's previous road is better than this broken road. All right, let's go back and look down on those fellows from the Amsterdam Chamber of Commerce. They really aren't embarrassed to build such a broken road. So he didn't join in on their teasing and opened the map again. His finger first pointed at Anvilmar City on the map before moving along the road to Seoul City. Apart from pausing on Lamart City, his finger also paused on two other cities that he passed by. The situation of the other two cities was similar to Lamart City. They had rejected New Flyer's investment because they supported His Highness Eric. What Sui was worried about now was that the New Flyer's motorcade had been rejected in Lamart City, so it was very likely that they would receive the same treatment in the other two cities. Although there wasn't a problem with Lamart City's reason of stopping magic cars because they needed to fix the road, Sui could smell a special smell that made him very uncomfortable. If this matter was done by Lamart City against New Flyer, Sui needed to consider more problems. The New Flyer was investing in Seoul City. Other than because of Satsuma Count's warm invitation, it was also because it was easier to cooperate with the Drake Duchy in Seoul City. The most important thing was that it was very important to Suyi's plan of spreading the magic machine industry across the Lampari Kingdom. So on this point, Sui couldn't make any mistakes. He had gathered all the elites of the Shinfei Chamber of Commerce and even personally made a move. Now that Lamart City was blocking them, Sui couldn't help considering a very realistic problem. Seoul City was after all close to Banda City, and if the New Flyer wanted to invest in Seoul City, it would involve transporting large amounts of people and goods. So transport was the most important problem. To have a fast and convenient transport, the combination of magic cars and roads was the best. But because most of the roads in the Lampari Kingdom were built by the companies of the cities or the cities themselves, the right to operate these roads was in the hands of the cities. For example, Lamart City didn't want magic cars to pass through, so the New Flyer's motorcade couldn't pass. If Lamart City and the other two cities restricted the New Flyer's transport from Banda City to Seoul City would be greatly affected. So Sui began to seriously consider a problem. Perhaps the Lampari Kingdom's road network should be upgraded ahead of time. Because of the lack of funds and the lack of awareness of the road problem in the Lampari Kingdom, most of the roads in the kingdom were built by the cities themselves. So although the Lampari Kingdom had over 3,000 kilometers of roads, it was only made up of small sections of roads in each city. According to the standards of Earth, These roads could only be considered county roads. They couldn't even be considered provincial roads. Even though this would still allow the road network to cover all the cities in the kingdom, there were still many problems. What happened to the new flyer today was one of them. Other than this, because each city had different investments in roads, the quality of the roads was different. Adding in the fact that the roads only connected cities, there were many unnecessary twists and turns. If one used the roads to travel, there would be more miles than if they traveled in a straight line. Take Banta City and Seoul City, for example. The distance between the two cities was less than 700 kilometers, but if one followed the roads between the cities, it would be over 1,000 kilometers, which was more than half the distance. Not mentioning the extra transportation costs, just the extra time made Soo-Yi feel that it was a waste. Soo-Yi had thought of this problem before, but he felt that the time wasn't right, so there was no need to rush. But after encountering this problem in Lamart City today, he began to seriously consider how to solve this problem. Soo-Yi's finger drew a line between Banta City and Seoul City on the map before looking at the situation around this line. He began to consider the feasibility of building this 700-kilometer road, which should be the first road in the Lampari Kingdom. Chapter 449. Seeing the large motorcade of magic cars disappear into the distance, Lamart City's 3rd Squad's Captain Koda took out the money bag that Soo-Yi had given him. After counting it, he found that there were a total of 25 gold coins inside, and he revealed a satisfied smile. Turning to see his subordinates staring at the money bag in his hand, Koda gave a cold snort. A bunch of greedy brats. After saying this, he took out a handful of gold coins from the money bag and gave each of his subordinates a gold coin. The 3rd Squad soldiers immediately revealed smiles when they received the gold coins and thanked Koda. Koda scolded and called his assistant over. "Stay here and watch. If those guys don't give up and want to come back through here, stop them for me. If they dare let a single person or a single car pass, you know the consequences." The assistant quickly agreed. Koda nodded before waving his hand at his subordinates and shouting, "Let's all go to the Forest Tavern for a drink tonight. It's my treat." With the cheers of his subordinates, Koda jumped onto his horse that was by the side of the road and turned to head off into the distance towards Lamart City. Half an hour later, Koda's horse passed through the walls of Lamart City. He passed through the streets that weren't considered wide and came to the City Lord's Manor in the center of the city. After being notified, Koda went to the City Lord's Manor to see the City Lord Count Scandi, who he rarely saw. Looking at the logo on the magic cars, are you certain it's the new flyer motorcade? Count Will's narrowed eyes shot out 2 beams of light as he stared fixedly at Koda, asking in a deep voice. Koda quickly lowered his head, not daring to look at Count Will. He replied in a very certain voice, reporting to the Lord City Lord. This subordinate clearly saw it. That motorcade was completely made of magic cars, and each magic car had the same logo. It was the same logo as the new flyer logo you had this subordinate see before. You really didn't see wrong? Will seemed to be very serious about this, so he confirmed it again. Yes, your subordinate can guarantee with my life that I am absolutely not mistaken. Count Will frowned slightly, as if he didn't believe it. He wanted to ask more, but a middle-aged man with a medium build and a thin face sitting on the other side suddenly spoke. Count Will, I don't think you need to doubt me anymore. Other than the new flyer, in the entire Lampari Kingdom, only the First and Carriage Company had this many magic cars. Since this motorcade has the new flyer logo, it should be the new flyer's motorcade. Well, Count pondered for a moment and nodded. Since you said so, Count Michel, it should be true. All right, you can leave now. Another man who looked younger than Count Will, and Count Michel frowned and sighed. He was sitting opposite Count Michel, and he seemed to be less than 40 years old. Actually, I've always felt that what we did wasn't good. Well, Count and Michel looked at him in surprise. Count Will's face sunk as he said in a soft voice, "Lonely Count, it can't be that you don't know why we decided to do this, right? Or are you planning on abandoning your family and betraying His Highness Eric?" Lonely Count shook his head. "How could I betray His Highness Eric? but I feel that. We don't need to go too far with a new flyer, right? The new flyer is clearly the company with the best development in the kingdom, so magic machines will definitely become popular. We don't need to offend the new flyer. Well, Count gave a cold snort. Longly, Count, you're still too young. Based on the face of your father who just passed away, I'll tell you that there is no possibility of compromise on this matter. Since we chose to support His Highness Eric, then anyone who supports Her Highness 70 is our enemy. Doing this to the new flyer is just giving them a warning. When it's necessary, humph, humph. Seeing the cold look in Count's eyes, Longly Count couldn't help giving a sigh in his heart. He shook his head and didn't say anything else. Seeing that Longly Count was silent, Count was too lazy to persuade him. In Count Will's opinion, this young man who had just inherited the hereditary title of Count due to his father's death and also took over the position of the Castellan of Basur City was actually not qualified to sit together with him and Count Michel to discuss such important matters. Count Michel, I've already shown the attitude of our Lamart City to the new flyer. Now, it's your Delacaton City's turn. Count said to Michel. Michel Count's eyes had a cold glow that couldn't be seen as he nodded with a faint smile. I know what to do. All right, let's put this small matter to the side for now and talk about proper matters. We were talking about how to give support to His Highness Eric's army. Our Lamart City is planning to support His Highness with 300,000 gold coins worth of supplies, and we'll add more later, depending on the situation. What about your Delacaton City and Basuru City? Michel Count rubbed his neatly trimmed short beard. After thinking for a bit, he replied, since Count was already made your decision, our Delacaton City can't fall behind. We'll also provide 300,000 gold coins worth of supplies. Count nodded in satisfaction. Actually, Delacaton City could be considered the wealthiest city in the Lampari Kingdom's northeast province. It had always been richer than Lamart City. However, Michel Count only chose 300,000 gold coins worth of initial support. This was giving him enough face. Like this, Count Will and Lamart City would be more conspicuous in front of His Highness Eric. This was very beneficial to Count. As for the rest of the investment, no one would care too much about it. After asking Michel Count, Count turned to Longly Count with a trace of ridicule in his voice. Then what about you, Longly Count? You'll also provide 300,000 gold coins? Longly Count shook his head with a bitter smile. Count, don't joke with me. Our Basura City is famous for being poor. How could we provide 300,000 gold coins worth of supplies? Then how much are you planning on providing? If it's too little, we won't be able to explain it to His Highness Eric. Count narrowed his eyes, and the smile on his face became a bit dangerous. Or are you not planning on providing supplies to His Highness at all? You're planning on betraying His Highness? Longly Count gave a sigh. He looked at Count and Michel Count's gazes, and after thinking for a bit, he replied, our Basura City really is powerless. I think we can only barely provide 100,000 gold coins worth of supplies. Hearing this reply, Count and Michel Count looked at each other and smiled at the same time. The two of them naturally knew about Basura City's situation and knew that this number was Basura City's limit. Like this, it meant that Longly Count didn't have any disloyalty toward His Highness Eric for now. Moreover, 100,000 gold coins was much less compared to their 300,000 gold coins, so Longly Count and Basura City wouldn't leave a good impression on His Highness. Very good, since we've decided, we need to move quickly. Count said in a deep voice. According to His Highness' plan, it is very likely that he will attack once winter passes. We need to send all the supplies to the Northern Army before then. Remember, His Highness' action this time is very important, and we can't make any mistakes. So, we need to be completely focused and can't make any mistakes in terms of supplies. Michel Count calmly replied. Longly Count gave a bitter laugh and also agreed. After the three of them discussed some details, they ended the meeting of the three city lords. After the meeting, Count wanted Michel Count and Longly Count to stay for lunch, but he was rejected by Longly Count with the reason that he had to go back to prepare supplies. Although Count wasn't happy, he didn't ask Longly Count to stay. After saying a few words, he had him leave. Longley Count sat in his private carriage after leaving Lamart City. When he drove out of Lamart City's gates, he let out a long sigh and his expression relaxed. Lifting the curtain to look at Lamart City's gates, Longley Count deeply knit his brows. He didn't like Michelle Count's gloomy expression, making it hard for people to see through his true thoughts. He hated Will Count's arrogant and strong style even more. If it wasn't for his father working with the two of them for a long time, Longley Count wouldn't have had any contact with the two of them. Not to mention that the two of them and his father had decided to support His Highness Eric before he died. So Count Longley didn't agree with them at all. Why did they support His Highness Eric taking the throne? Was it because His Highness Eric was a prince and the king's first son? In Count Longley's opinion, who should take the throne shouldn't be decided by this. Rather, it should be decided by who could bring better development to the Lampari kingdom. Based on this, Count Longley favored Her Highness 70 more. As for the new flyer, who everyone thought was a firm supporter of Her Highness 70, Count Longley didn't have any prejudice at all. Rather, he had a good impression of them. Before his father passed away and before he took over as Baisuru City's city lord, he had secretly gone to Banta City for half a month out of curiosity. During that half a month in Banta City, he had been deeply attracted by the strange things in Banta City and had been deeply impressed by the rapid development of Banta City over the past few years. Through everything, Count Longley deeply realized that Banta City, being able to develop from a small city like Basur City to its current prosperous state, the new flyer had played an important role in this. After coming back from Banta City, Count Longley had always considered question. If he brought the new flyer to Basur City, would Basur City develop as quickly as Banta City? Thinking of this question now, Count Longley's expression was filled with struggle. After a while, the struggle on his face finally disappeared and turned into determination. Count Longley said something to the driver, and the horse carriage changed directions. They left the road outside Lamart City and went onto a dirt road that was the same as the new flyer's motorcade. Chapter 450. Being rejected by Lamart City naturally destroyed the new flyer's plan to rest in Lamart City. The motorcade left the road and entered the only dirt road in the north that could accommodate magic cars, so they couldn't help slowing down. Before they even left Lamart City, the sky had already darkened. Seeing nightfall, Sue-E gave up the idea of finding a village to stay in and ordered the motorcade to set up camp in the wild. It was a good thing that Sue-E attached great importance to this trip to Seoul City that was close to Banta City, so he had already made preparations before setting off. Naturally, he had considered this accident and had already prepared a plan. The transport magic cars and the motorcade didn't just carry the production magic machines and other construction materials for Seoul City. There were also some daily necessities. With Sue-Ye's order, the staff of the new flyer began to move. They brought out emergency tents, blankets, and other daily necessities, quickly setting up a small camp on the side of the road. Other than these daily necessities, there were even several household magic machines in the motorcade. With the magic crystals that had already been prepared, there were several magic furnaces that were lit in the camp. After a while, the entire camp was filled with the fragrance of food. The dwarves even took out a large bottle of wine from the transport magic car and poured a large bowl for everyone in the motorcade. With the fragrance of the wine mixed in with the food, the entire camp was filled with the smell of life. It didn't seem like a long-distance transport team. Rather, it seemed like a team that had come out for a camping trip. Sue-E looked at Camby, who had an awkward look on his face, but was still tightly holding the wine barrel that was thicker than his waist. He gave a soft snort. "Camby, I remember telling you that you weren't allowed to drink at work, right? Why did you secretly bring wine this time?" Camby awkwardly laughed. "Sir Chairman, isn't it already time to knock off from work? Don't worry, I dare guarantee that none of us drank a single drop of alcohol during the day. We definitely didn't delay our proper business." Sue-E gave a snort, but he still raised the bowl beside him. Camby was instantly overjoyed. He lifted the wine barrel and poured it towards Sue-Ye's bowl. It could be seen that he was extremely skilled in this action. Holding such a large wine barrel, he was actually able to fill Su Yi's bowl perfectly without spilling a single drop of wine. There was no wastage at all. Su Yi leaned over and took a sniff. The fragrance of the wine assailed his nostrils, and he couldn't help but praise. Good wine. Kanbai laughed heartily. How about it? President, this wine is not bad, right? Well, it smells good, but I don't know how it tastes. Su Yi picked up the bowl and took a sip. He felt that the wine was soft in his mouth, but the wine was mellow and fragrant. It was as if half of his mouth had melted. When he drank it, he felt a wave of heat rush from his throat to his stomach, but it didn't feel spicy at all. It only made him feel hot all over, just enough to expel the cold from the outside world. Even though he wasn't much of a drinker, he still felt that the wine's taste was excellent. He couldn't help but take another big gulp. Feeling his body warmed up by the wine, He nodded in praise. Very good. This wine tastes good and can resist the cold. It's rather suitable for this situation. Seeing that he finally received Su Yi's approval, Kanbai's smile instantly became exceedingly radiant. He laughed heartily and said, I knew President would definitely like it. Su Yi took another sip. After pondering, he asked, This wine doesn't seem to be produced by the Surd Manor. Could it be that it's brewed by your brewery? Yes, this is the first batch of wine produced by our dwarven brewery. President, how do you feel about it when compared to the Surd Manor's wine? Kanbai asked with a complacent look. Su Yi gave him a thumbs up. Very good. It's not the least bit inferior to the Surd Manor's wine. Right? Your dwarven brewery has been in preparation for such a long time. When are you going to officially start mass producing and selling? If I recall correctly, you've already prepared all the brewing equipment 2 months ago. Patriarch Monto and Patriarch wanted to launch it during the new year. Coincidentally, it's a good opportunity to spread its name. Therefore, we delayed it slightly. Kanbai replied. So it's like that. Su Yi glanced at the pure color of the fragrant wine in the bowl in his hand. Then, he glanced at the thick wine barrel beside Kanbai and frowned. I say, don't tell me you're planning to sell it just like that? Kanbai was startled. What's the matter? Is there a problem? Su Yi shook his head. He thought to himself, Kanbai has been under me for a long time, yet he hasn't learned the slightest bit of business acumen. Don't you know how to package it? Su Yi pointed at the enormous wine barrel. Don't tell me you're planning to sell it with such a large wooden barrel? Kanbai scratched his head with a puzzled look. Is there a problem? Isn't that how it's usually sold? Su Yi recalled that when New Flyer ordered fine wine from Surd Manor, they also received large barrels. Instantly, he understood. The advertising and packaging of fine wine on the signs was still at the most primitive stage of word of mouth. It was still a far cry from the various marketing methods on Earth. It was no wonder that Patriarch Saluka and Patriarch Monto hadn't thought of this point. Thinking of this, Su Yi beckoned to Kanbai, indicating for him to take a seat. He was prepared to give him a detailed explanation of the various methods of packaging fine wine. Just as he was talking about how fine wine bottles could be filled with fine wine to serve different types of customers, the caravan guard Captain Hart came looking for Su Yi. Sir Chairman, do you think we should strengthen the defensive arrangements for tonight? Su Yi was slightly startled. He turned to glance at the surrounding forest and wilderness that had sunk into a deathly stillness after the curtain of night. After pondering for a moment, he gently nodded. We're in the wilderness, after all. It's good to pay more attention. As for the specifics, I'll leave it to you to arrange. I won't interfere. Watching as Hart left, Kanbai coldly snorted and said, This Lamart city lord is truly baffling. Why must he block us outside the city and not let us in? Doesn't he know that many of our cities are desperately inviting our merchant conglomerates to invest in them? Isn't he afraid of offending us, and we won't come back? He shook his head. He thought to himself, this involves the political struggles of the human kingdoms. It's best not to tell Kanbai about it. Everyone has a different standpoint. There's nothing to criticize. He casually replied. Suddenly, he recalled a question. Speaking of which, Kanbai, you dwarves should have quite a number of signs, right? Don't tell me you're just living in separate tribes and don't have a close relationship with each other like us humans. Don't you have any conflicts with each other? Of course not. Although we dwarves don't like to fight and scheme against each other like you humans, we will always have different opinions. But you humans are too strong on the continent. It's already hard for us dwarves to live our own lives. How can we have the time to fight among ourselves? That's right. Suitly nodded. He thought that if the living conditions of the dwarves were improved, would there be divisions among them like the humans? Then thinking about how there were fewer elves and they cared more about cultivation, if they were divided into several factions like the humans and fought among themselves, that really was a scene that Sue-E couldn't imagine. After giving Kanbai some basic knowledge on how to package the wine, the two of them discussed the shock absorption system of the magic car as the night became darker. Since they were camping in the wild, naturally there wasn't any entertainment. Adding in the fact that they had to get up early tomorrow, not long after they finished eating dinner, the people of the motorcade fell asleep in the camp surrounded by the magic cars. As the chairman, Sue-E naturally had the privilege of occupying a tent by himself. But perhaps it was because it was his first time camping in this kind of situation, or perhaps it was because it was cold, Sue-E couldn't fall asleep after lying down for a while. He kept tossing in his blankets as his mind was filled with the matter of being blocked by Lamart City today. Being blocked by Lamart City wasn't something that was hard for Sue-E to accept, but he had to pay attention to the meaning behind this matter. Although because Sue-E and the New Flyer supported Her Highness 70, causing the New Flyer to be affected in some areas of the kingdom that supported His Highness Eric, it wasn't that big of a hindrance. But this time Lamart City had directly blocked the New Flyer's motorcade outside the city, not even letting the motorcade through the city gates. There was no doubt that Lamart City had already made their stance clear. What Sue-E was worried about now was whether this matter was decided by Lamart City or if it was done by His Highness Eric. If it was the former, at most they would give up on Lamart City and it wouldn't affect them that much. But if it was the latter, the situation would be a bit worrying. Based on the current internal situation of the Lampari Kingdom, the side that supported His Highness Eric had the absolute advantage. This was because the side that supported His Highness Eric was the conservative faction of the kingdom, so they had a deep-rooted influence in the kingdom. The range of influence they had was much larger than Her Highness 70's. If His Highness Eric wanted to go against Her Highness 70 and take strong measures against the New Flyer, at least a third of the kingdom and maybe half of the cities would take strong measures like Lamart City, rejecting the New Flyer's entry. If this really happened, it would be a heavy blow to Sue-Yi's plan of expanding the New Flyer to the entire Lampari Kingdom, allowing the magic machine industry to cover the entire Lampari Kingdom. Although Sue-Yi had always supported Her Highness 70, he only admired Her Highness 70's ability to accept new things like the magic machine industry and how she truly considered the citizens of the kingdom. He didn't support her at all costs. To Sue-Yi, compared to the development of the magic machine industry, fighting for the throne was an insignificant matter. So he didn't have any ill feelings towards His Highness Eric, and even thought of cooperating with His Highness Eric if there was a chance. But facts told Sue-Yi a truth. It was hard for business to escape the influence of politics. For a top-level political struggle, like fighting for the throne, it was much more direct than he imagined, and there was no compromise at all. His Highness Eric, or rather the people that supported him, were already forcing Sue-Yi to make a choice. Should he maintain a neutral attitude, or should he support Her Highness 70? Thinking that he would be forced to make this choice one day, Sue-Yi couldn't help giving a sigh. Her Highness 70's gentle smile appeared in his mind. Although Sue-Yi was hesitating, the scales couldn't help tilting towards Her Highness 70. At this time, Sue-Yi suddenly felt a slight tremor from the ground. After a while, there was a pitiful cry that filled the field and clearly entered the tent. Chapter 451. In a flash, Sue-Yi leapt up and dashed out of the tent. At present, the sounds of hooves trampling on the ground could be heard from the northwest plains. It spread throughout the campsite, waking up all the people who had sunk into deep slumber. The bodyguards who were originally arranged to rest for the first half of the night now displayed the results of their daily training. They reacted at the first instance and donned their full set of equipment. Gathering together, they rapidly set up a defensive formation outside the campsite. Hart's loud shout resounded from outside the campsite. After a brief moment, he ran in and saluted Sue-E. He then said in a deep voice, "Sir Chairman, there's an enemy sneak attack." Seeing that Hart didn't have any panicked expression, Sue-E nodded and asked, "You're in charge of the defense, I won't interfere. If you need me to take action, you can tell me." Hart glanced at Sue-E with some surprise. Then, he recalled that this esteemed chairman was actually an adept mage. If there was an adept mage among the bodyguards of a caravan, it would greatly enhance the combat strength of the entire group. However, due to Sue-Yi's status as chairman, Hart would always subconsciously neglect the possibility of Sue-Yi personally going into battle. This caused him to forget Sue-Yi's status as a mage. After hesitating for a moment, Hart said with a stern expression, "Since that's the case, Sir Chairman, I hope you can make preparations to join the battle at any time." Watching Hart's departing figure after speaking, Sue-Yi faintly creased his brows. Hart didn't reject his participation in the battle. This proved that the situation wasn't optimistic. "Chairman, there's an enemy sneak attack." Kanbai's voice resounded from behind Sue-Yi. "Who dares to attack our new flyer? Are they courting death?" Sue-Yi turned back to take a look. He discovered that Kanbai and the other dwarves in the caravan didn't have the slightest trace of nervousness or fear. Instead, their faces were filled with excitement and anticipation. He couldn't help but laugh involuntarily. These dwarves were indeed worthy of being called the warrior race by all the races on the signs. But these dwarves were mechanical engineers from the New Flyer's Magic Machine Development Center, so they could be considered treasures of the New Flyer. Even if Sue-Yi believed that they were strong, he didn't dare let them take risks on the battlefield. After muttering to himself for a brief moment, Sue-Yi halted the eager Kanbai and the rest, instructing them to remain within the campsite to take care of the other staff members who didn't possess any combat strength. Then, he stepped out of the campsite. Although they didn't have much time to set up camp, Hart and the other guards still relied on the magic cars to build a small fortification. They were currently gathered behind this simple fortification, focusing on the direction of the horse hooves. "What's the situation?" Sue-Yi felt his way over and looked in the direction of the sound of horse hooves. However, he could only see darkness and nothing else. The situation isn't good. It was different from when he first informed Sue-Yi. Hart's expression was much more serious. "The 3 guards who were patrolling in that direction haven't returned yet, so I'm guessing that they have already met with disaster. Moreover, based on the sound of the horse hooves, there should be at least 200 cavalry." 200 cavalry? Sue-Yi deeply knit his brows. With this many cavalry, they definitely aren't normal bandits. Hart slowly nodded. He looked at Sue-Yi and hesitated to speak. Sue-Yi patted his shoulder. "We'll talk about it later. Let's properly deal with this first. Otherwise, we might not even be able to survive." "Yes." Hart gave a strong nod. He looked up at a tree beside the campsite and shouted, "ISOs, what's the situation?" There was the sound of leaves rustling as an elven guard jumped down. He nodded at Sue-Yi with a serious expression. "We're 400 meters away." "Very good. We're in range. There's no need to say anything. Everyone, prepare your bows and arrows." At Hart's command, all the guards took out a magic repeating crossbow from their sides. Fire! Hart's right hand fell heavily, and Sue-Yi heard the sound of arrows piercing through the air. A moment later, countless arrows pierced through the night. There was a burst of miserable screams and the sound of people falling to the ground. The magic repeating crossbows that Sue-Yi gave the New Flyer guards were a new version of the magic repeating crossbows that had been given to the New Flyer at the beginning of the year. Not only did they shoot faster, but the number of arrows that could be held in the quiver was also higher. At the same time, the number of arrows that could be shot was close to 30% more than the previous magic repeating crossbows. Although there were only 40 guards, if each of them had a magic repeating crossbow, the rain of arrows that they released was comparable to the 500 archers in the Lampari Kingdom's army. The continuous rain of arrows filled the darkness and the cries of people and horses could be heard in front of them. It was obvious that the enemy was severely injured. When Sui felt that if this continued, the enemies that ambushed them would be killed before they could even approach the camp, there was a light blue circle of light that appeared in the darkness in front of him. It was like a semicircle that covered the plains. Azure Guard? Seeing this light blue halo, Sui was shocked. This light blue halo was clearly the Azure Guard, a level 8 water spell. That meant that there was a high-level mage that could cast a level 8 spell in the team that had come to ambush them. The endless rain of arrows fiercely crashed into the light blue light screen, but it was as if they had been installed with a wall made of water. They could only create ripples on the light circle, but they were unable to penetrate the light screen at all. They fell outside the light screen one after another. Seeing this situation, Hart's face sank. He turned to look at Sui and hesitated for a moment before saying, "Sir Chairman, it seems that we still need you to take action." Sui looked at the enemy's cavalry under the halo and discovered that there were still more than 100 of them that had survived the rain of arrows. He immediately frowned. With such a large cavalry, they were definitely not ordinary bandits. They looked more like a regular army. Even from their complete equipment and uniform movements, it seemed like they had been trained well. Even the city guards of the Lampari Kingdom were far inferior to them. Then where did these guys come from? Why would they suddenly launch a surprise attack on the New Flyers convoy in the middle of the night? However, now was not the time to think about these questions. Hearing Hart's request, Sui shook his head slightly. Now is not the best time for me to take action. Hart, change to a new magic arrow box. Hart's eyes suddenly widened. It can't be? Sir Chairman, are we really going to use it? Nonsense. If we don't use it now, are we going to keep it to give birth to our children? Sui reprimanded. Hart swallowed hard and gestured to the guards around him. The other guards were also in disbelief. They looked at each other and hesitated for a moment before changing the magic arrow box in their hands to a very special-looking arrow box. Seeing that the guards had changed, Hart looked at Sui again with a difficult expression. Sir Chairman, are we really going to use it? Don't talk nonsense. Can't you see that the enemy is already so close? Sui pointed at the cavalry team that had slowed down in the wilderness. All right. Hart turned his head to look at the enemy that was not far away. He took a deep breath and shouted in a low voice, "Fire!" Unlike the sound of countless arrows tearing through the air, the sound of the arrows released by the magic repeating crossbow this time was much gentler, even though it was still ear-piercing and frightening. Furthermore, when the arrows pierced through the night sky, there were red trails behind them. It was as if each arrow had a long tail behind it. The magic crossbows fired continuously, and countless arrows flew out. In an instant, countless dense, fiery red lines appeared in the air, illuminating the entire night sky. Boom! The first arrow hit the light blue screen in the blink of an eye, but it was not like the previous arrows that were easily blocked by the light screen. Instead, it caused a violent explosion. Along with the flash of red light, a violent and deafening explosion spread far and wide across the wasteland. Boom, 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 boom. Immediately after the first arrow, countless arrows hit the light screen, instantly causing countless violent explosions. The light blue light caused countless ripples in the water under the countless violent explosions. The light dimmed instantly, and the entire light screen became unstable, as if it would disappear in the next moment. However, after a while, the light screen stabilized again and even burst out with an even more intense blue light, completely enveloping the cavalry below. This guy's magic power is quite strong, Sui sneered, and said to Hart, "Continue shooting, I want to see how long he can last." Hart smiled bitterly. "Sir President, why do you have to do this? Didn't you tell us last time that the cost of a fire magic arrow was 30 silver coins, and that we should use it sparingly? But now we have already shot 40 fire magic arrow boxes. That's a total of 800 fire magic arrows. In total, we have spent 240 gold coins. Oh, that's not much. If we can cripple a mage with only 200 gold coins, I think it's quite worth it. He said indifferently. All right, stop talking, hurry up and continue. Don't tell me you want those guys to really charge into the camp. Don't forget, the things in the camp are even more valuable now. If they charge in, the losses might be 10 times more than 240 gold coins. But Sir President, if you make a move, you can definitely deal with this mage. That way, we won't have a problem dealing with those cavalry soldiers. Why waste this money? First, if I can avoid making a move, I will try my best not to. If a problem can be solved with money, why should I make a move? Su Yi's gaze swept over the cavalry soldiers within 100 meters, and he continued with a sneer. Second, this is a warning to some people, telling them that the power in the hands of our new flyer is far beyond their imagination. Hart frowned. Sir President, shouldn't this kind of thing be kept secret? Su Yi laughed mischievously. You don't understand. Even this kind of thing needs to be advertised. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.